5 reflections before the last breath one day. Everything we are so sure of will be taken from our hands. In the quiet middle of ordinary life, while we are still young, still healthy, still making plans as if time belongs to us, the Buddha's teaching comes like a gentle bell. Wake up before carelessness becomes suffering. This narration follows the inner journey of ordinary people like us, living among love, ambition, fear, attachment, and karma. As we learn to contemplate aging, illness, death, separation, and the inheritance of our own actions, we are not beginning in a distant monastery, under ancient trees, far away from noise and responsibility. We are beginning here, in the living room, on the morning commute, at the office desk, beside a sleeping child, in the glow of a phone screen, in the heart that wants to love and be loved, to succeed, to be safe, to have more time. Most of us do not wake up thinking that life is fragile. We wake up thinking of messages to answer, bills to pay, meetings to attend, meals to prepare, people to please, plans to finish. The alarm rings, the body rises, the hand reaches for the phone, almost before the mind is fully awake. News, faces, numbers, images, opinions, desires, worries all rush in like a crowd entering an open door. Before the first breath has been noticed, the day has already taken possession of us. And yet, underneath all of this movement, something quiet is happening. The hair is slowly changing. The skin is slowly changing. The strength we take for granted is slowly changing. The people we love are changing. The world around us is changing. Every breath that enters also leaves. Every morning that comes also passes away. Every plan we make stands on ground that is not truly ours. Still, we live as if youth will not fade. We live as if health will not break. We live as if life will not end. This is not because we are foolish in some simple way. It is because the mind is easily intoxicated. It becomes drunk on youth when the body feels strong, when beauty still answers the mirror, when energy still rises quickly, when desire still burns with confidence. It becomes drunk on health when the limbs obey, when the stomach digests, when sleep returns, when pain is only a visitor and not yet a room we must live in. It becomes drunk on life itself, when tomorrow seems guaranteed, when next year feels certain, when we say, later when I have more time, I will become more patient. Later I will forgive. Later I will practice. Later I will stop harming myself. Later I will be kind. But later is a word built from mist. The Buddha looked deeply into the human condition and saw how this intoxication gives birth to heedlessness. When we are intoxicated with youth, we may speak carelessly, love carelessly, consume carelessly, wound others carelessly, thinking there will always be time to repair what we have broken. When we are intoxicated with health, we may abuse the body, neglect the mind, look down on the sick, avoid the suffering, and forget compassion until pain visits our own door. When we are intoxicated with life, we may postpone goodness, delay wisdom, strengthen greed, anger, and delusion, and act as though our actions have no echo. Heedlessness does not always appear as something dramatic. It often looks ordinary. It looks like one harsh sentence spoken because we are tired. It looks like one act of dishonesty because no one will notice. It looks like jealousy hidden behind a smile. It looks like resentment kept warm for years. It looks like chasing pleasure while forgetting the heart. It looks like being physically present with the people we love, yet mentally lost in 1,000 cravings. It looks like knowing what is wholesome, but choosing what is easy. From this heedlessness, unwholesome actions grow, not all at once perhaps. A life rarely collapses in a single moment. More often it bends little by little. A small lie becomes a habit. A moment of anger becomes a pattern. A desire becomes an obsession. A pleasure becomes a chain. A wound becomes an identity. And because the mind does not pause to reflect, it keeps planting seeds without asking what kind of fruit they will bear. This is why the Buddha did not teach reflection on aging, illness, death, separation, and karma as a punishment. He did not offer these contemplations to make the heart dark or afraid of living. He offered them as medicine, clear medicine, compassionate medicine, a mirror placed gently before the face of life, so that we might stop sleepwalking through what is precious. To reflect in this way is not to reject joy. It is to protect joy from ignorance. It is not to become cold. It is to love more tenderly. It is not to become passive. It is to act with greater urgency and care. When we remember that youth fades, we do not despise youth. We use its energy wisely. When we remember that health can fail, we do not hate the body. We care for it with humility. When we remember that death is certain, we do not abandon life. We enter it more fully, with fewer illusions and more sincerity. The Buddha taught his disciples, monks and nuns, laymen and laywomen, to reflect again and again, by day and by night. These reflections are not reserved for people who have left home, shaved their heads, and wear robes. They are for parents carrying children through long nights. They are for workers who come home exhausted and wonder where their years have gone. They are for students burning with ambition and uncertainty. They are for lovers who fear losing what they cherish. They are for those who have succeeded and still feel restless. They are for those who have failed and still carry hope. They are for anyone who has ever looked at life and quietly asked, "How should I live before it is too late?" Because the truth is, we are all standing in the same great river. Some stand near the beginning, some in the middle, some near the bend where the current disappears from sight. But no one is standing still. Even the young are moving, even the healthy are moving, even the joyful are moving, and what we do while we move matters. In the modern world, the intoxication of youth has become especially powerful. Everywhere we are told to look young, act young, stay young, worship youth as if it were the highest blessing. Faces are filtered, bodies are displayed, success is measured by speed, beauty, visibility, and endless activity. The old are often hidden away, illness is treated as an inconvenience, death is spoken of in lowered voices, and suffering is something we scroll past quickly. If it disturbs our mood, we are encouraged to become distracted, to consume more, to compare more, to desire more, to build a self that must constantly be admired, defended, improved, and performed. And in such a world, silence can feel threatening, reflection can feel uncomfortable. A simple question like, "Am I living wisely?" may feel heavier than we want to bear, so we run. We fill the quiet with sound, we fill loneliness with entertainment, we fill fear with achievement, we fill emptiness with buying, eating, posting, chasing, planning, and none of these things are evil in themselves. A song is not the problem, a meal is not the problem, work is not the problem, love is not the problem. The problem begins when the mind clings blindly, when it forgets impermanence, when it seeks safety in what cannot be kept. A person may be young and already afraid of aging. A person may be healthy and already terrified of illness. A person may be alive and yet secretly haunted by death. Because deep down, beneath all confidence, the heart knows. It knows that the body cannot be commanded forever. It knows that loved ones cannot be held forever. It knows that every possession, every status, every identity, every relationship is subject to change. But because this knowing is painful, we cover it with busyness. The Buddha invites us not to withcover it. He invites us to turn toward it with courage. This turning is the beginning of wisdom. Not a cold wisdom, not a wisdom that rejects the world, but a wisdom that sees clearly enough to love without being enslaved. If I remember that I will age, I may become less arrogant toward those whose hands tremble. If I remember that I will be sick, I may become more compassionate toward those who suffer. If I remember that I will die, I may stop wasting my life on hatred. If I remember that I must be separated from all that is dear, I may hold people with gratitude rather than possession. If I remember that my actions are truly mine, that I inherit the results of what I do, say, and think, I may become careful in the most beautiful sense of the word. Careful not because I am afraid of punishment, but because I understand consequence. Careful because anger leaves a trace. Careful because kindness leaves a trace. Careful because greed shapes the mind. Careful because generosity shapes the mind. Careful because every moment is a seed, and the field of life does not forget what has been planted. When the mind is heedless, it says, "This small action does not matter," but wisdom says, "Everything repeated becomes a path." One cruel word may seem small, but if repeated, it becomes a home for cruelty. One mindful breath may seem small, but if repeated, it becomes a doorway to freedom. One act of restraint may seem invisible, but it protects the heart from remorse. One moment of compassion may seem ordinary, but it changes the direction of a life. The 5 daily reflections are like 5 lamps placed along a dark road. Aging, illness, death, separation, and karma. At first, their light may feel severe. We may want to look away, but if we stay, if we let the eyes adjust, we begin to see that these lamps are not there to frighten us. They are there to guide us home. For what is suffering often made of? It is made of demanding that the changing remain unchanged. It is made of insisting that the fragile become secure. It is made of believing that what is borrowed belongs to us forever. Youth is borrowed. Health is borrowed. Time is borrowed. The presence of those we love is borrowed. Even this body, which we call mine so confidently, is made of elements that gather for a while and then disperse. To see this is not to lose the beauty of life. It is to finally see its beauty without deception. A flower is not less beautiful because it wilts. A sunset is not meaningless because it fades. A child's laughter is not less precious because the child will grow. The breath is not less miraculous because it is temporary. In fact, impermanence is what makes tenderness urgent, because nothing can be kept, everything must be met with care. Imagine, then, a person who begins the day with reflection. Before touching the phone, before entering the river of tasks, they pause and remember, I am subject to aging. I have not gone beyond aging. I am subject to illness. I have not gone beyond illness. I am subject to death. I have not gone beyond death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change and be separated from me. I am the owner of my actions. Whatever I do, for good or for harm, that I will inherit. Such a person may still go to work. They may still laugh, cook, study, plan, build, love, and dream. But something in them has shifted. The day is no longer an unconscious race. It has become a sacred responsibility. They may be less quick to insult, because they know life is short, less willing to deceive, because they know karma is intimate, less obsessed with winning every argument, because they know death will not ask who was right, more willing to forgive, because separation is certain, more willing to practice, because no one else can purify the mind for them. This is the bell that rings in the middle of youth. It does not wait until the hospital bed. It does not wait until the funeral. It does not wait until the face in the mirror has become unrecognizable. It rings now, while the body still moves, while choices can still be made, while the heart can still be trained, and perhaps that is why we resist it. We think contemplation belongs to the old, to the sick, to those already standing near the edge. But the Buddha's compassion reaches us before the edge. He asks us to look now, not to make us sorrowful, but to spare us from deeper sorrow later. He asks us to wake up while waking up is still possible. Before we can understand death, separation, or karma, we must first look directly at the illusion that deceives us earliest, the intoxication of youth. The intoxication of youth is not always loud. Sometimes it is very quiet. It hides inside the simple feeling that tomorrow will surely come, that the body will surely obey, that the face in the mirror will remain familiar, that strength will return whenever we need it. It whispers, there is time. There is still plenty of time. When we are young, or when we still feel young, life seems to open in every direction. The legs carry us without complaint. The hands reach, build, touch, grasp, and release as if they have always belonged to our command. The eyes are bright, the skin is fresh, the mind moves quickly from desire to desire, plan to plan, dream to dream, and because the body answers so easily, we begin to believe, without even noticing it, that this body is ours in the deepest sense. There is a story of a dancer who was once the pride of her city. Crowds gathered wherever she performed, and poets wrote of the way her body seemed to defeat gravity itself. She believed, quietly, that her gift made her different from ordinary people, that her grace was a kind of proof against time. Years later, her knees began to ache before every performance. Her leaps grew shorter. Audiences still applauded out of memory and respect. But she could feel the difference, and it frightened her more than any failure ever had. For a long while she refused to watch younger dancers, unable to bear the sight of what she had lost. It was an old teacher, not a doctor, who finally helped her. He told her gently that she had mistaken a passing season for a permanent identity, and that the body had never promised her anything it could not keep. Only when she stopped fighting the changing of her own limbs did she find, to her surprise, a different kind of grace. The grace of teaching others, of guiding without needing to be admired. But the Buddha invited his disciples to look more carefully at this very illusion, not with fear, not with hatred toward the body, but with honesty. He taught us to reflect again and again, I am subject to aging. I have not gone beyond aging. Aging is my nature. Aging cannot be avoided. This reflection is simple, yet it cuts through a very deep illusion. Because no matter how beautiful a person may be, beauty must bow to time. No matter how strong a person may be, strength must one day loosen its grip. No matter how admired, talented, wealthy, or clever someone becomes, no one can bargain with aging. No one can offer gold to remain forever young. No one can offer fame to keep the hair from turning grey. No one can offer intelligence to prevent the joints from stiffening, the eyes from weakening, the memory from changing, the breath from becoming shorter. Time does not ask whether we agree. It does not ask whether we are ready. It simply moves. And yet in youth, we often live as if we are exempt. We see old age around us, but we do not take it personally. We see a bent back, trembling hands, a wrinkled face, and somewhere in the hidden room of the mind, we think, that is them, that is not me. We may feel pity, discomfort, impatience, or even, but rarely do we feel recognition. Rarely do we bow inwardly and say, this is also my path. If I live long enough, I too will meet this messenger. This is why the Buddha called us to reflect, because the mind intoxicated with youth becomes careless. It mistakes temporary freshness for possession. It thinks, my beauty, my energy, my charm, my body, my life. And from this mistaken sense of ownership, craving grows, pride grows, vanity grows. A person begins to decorate the self as if it can be made secure by admiration. They chase praise. They fear being overlooked. They compare, compete, seduce, display, and defend an image that is already changing moment by moment. This intoxication can look attractive from the outside. It may wear fashionable clothes, speak with confidence, laugh loudly, move through rooms with ease, but inside it is fragile, because anything built upon youth must tremble before the passing of time. When a wrinkle appears, the heart becomes anxious. When another person is more beautiful, jealousy appears. When attention fades, bitterness appears. When the body no longer performs as before, despair appears. The mind that worships youth has made an altar out of something that cannot stay. And when craving is strong, unwholesome karma becomes easy. A person intoxicated with youth may become arrogant. They may look down on those who are weaker, slower, less attractive, less socially admired. They may speak harshly to elders, as if age were a failure instead of a natural unfolding. They may feel annoyed by their parents' needs, forgetting that those same parents once carried them through helplessness. They may mock the old, avoid the sick, and turn away from anyone who reminds them of impermanence. Sometimes the intoxication of youth leads to sensual excess. The mind thinks, I should enjoy everything now. I should take what I want. I should follow pleasure wherever it leads. And without mindfulness, pleasure becomes a master. A person may lie for desire, betray for desire, harm for desire, abandon responsibility for desire. They may treat other people as objects for enjoyment, not as living beings with hearts that can be wounded. They may break trust and call it freedom. They may lose shame and call it confidence. They may ignore conscience and call it living fully. But the law of karma does not bend for our excuses. Every intention leaves a trace. Every act of body, speech, and mind plants a seed. If we act with cruelty, cruelty does not vanish simply because we were young. If we act with selfishness, selfishness does not become pure simply because we were chasing excitement. If we neglect those who cared for us, if we humiliate the vulnerable, if we waste our strength in heedlessness, the mind becomes shaped by those choices, and what is shaped in the mind follows us, like a shadow that never tires. This is why contemplating aging is an act of compassion toward ourselves. It interrupts the spell before the spell becomes suffering. It asks us to pause and look directly at the body, not as an enemy, but as a teacher. This body that we polish, feed, exercise, decorate, and defend is also a body moving toward age. Even in its brightest season, aging is already present. The child becomes the youth becomes the adult becomes the elder. The change does not begin later, it is happening now. If we look deeply, we can see old age already written into the body. It is in the way tiredness comes more easily than before. It is in the small lines near the eyes. It is in the need to rest. It is in the names we forget, the aches we ignore. The moments when the body no longer recovers as quickly. These are not insults. They are not punishments, they are messages. Imagine gently the path ahead if life continues. Imagine the hair losing its color. Imagine the skin becoming thin and folded. Imagine the hands once so quick and certain, beginning to tremble while holding a cup. Imagine walking more slowly while others hurry past. Imagine needing help to stand, to bathe, to remember, to go from one room to another. Imagine the world becoming louder, faster, harder to follow. Imagine looking at young people and seeing in them the season you once believed would never end. This imagination is not meant to frighten the heart, it is meant to soften it. Because when we truly understand, I too am subject to aging, pride begins to lose its throne. How can we despise the old when we are walking toward the same gate? How can we ridicule weakness when our own strength is borrowed? How can we cling so fiercely to beauty when beauty is like dew under the morning sun? How can we delay kindness when the time to give, serve, apologize, and practice is not guaranteed? Aging, when contemplated wisely, becomes a great equalizer. It places the rich and poor, famous and unknown, praised and forgotten side by side. It shows that all bodies are fragile arrangements of causes and conditions. For a while they appear strong. For a while they appear graceful. For a while they appear under our control. Then slowly, or sometimes suddenly, they reveal the truth. We are caretakers, not owners. To reflect on aging is to become humble. And humility is not self-hatred. It is clarity. It is the peaceful knowledge that we are not above the law of change. It is the end of pretending. A humble person can respect life more deeply because they no longer demand that life obey their fantasies. They can meet others with gentleness because they know everyone is aging, everyone is losing something, everyone is being carried by time. When we see an elderly person, the reflection teaches us not to turn away. Perhaps that person once had a strong voice, quick steps, a radiant face, ambitions, romances, victories, and secret hopes. Perhaps they too once thought old age belonged to someone else. Now they are showing us our own future. If we are wise, we do not respond with impatience. We respond with reverence. We respond as one traveler recognizing another further down the road. This reflection also brings gratitude. If today we can walk without pain, let us not take walking for granted. If today we can see clearly, hear clearly, eat by ourselves, remember the names of those we love, let us not pass through the day asleep. If today we have strength to work, to care for family, to practice generosity, to listen to Dhamma, to restrain harmful speech, to correct old mistakes, then today is not ordinary, it is precious. Youth says, use me for pleasure. Wisdom says, use this strength for goodness. While the body still has energy, we can bow, we can serve, we can give. We can care for parents and elders. We can speak words that heal instead of words that scar. We can train the mind before it is overwhelmed by regret. We can practice restraint while desire is strong, patience while anger is hot, compassion while pride is loud. We can create wholesome karma with this very body that is aging. The contemplation of aging does not make life gloomy. In truth, it can make life more tender. When we know that freshness fades, we stop demanding perfection from ourselves and others. When we know that the body changes, we become less obsessed with appearance and more concerned with the quality of the heart. When we know that strength will not last, we stop postponing. What is noble, we begin to ask, what should I do with the time and energy I still have? What seeds am I planting? What kind of person am I becoming? Aging teaches patience because everything takes time to ripen. It teaches kindness because everyone is vulnerable. It teaches forgiveness because the days are not endless. It teaches urgency, but not the urgency of panic, rather, the urgency of love. The urgency to do good while good can still be done. The urgency to purify the mind while the mind can still be trained. The urgency to stop creating causes of future suffering. If we reflect every day, I am subject to aging, the heart gradually changes its direction. We may still enjoy beauty, but we do not worship it. We may still care for the body, but we do not make it our identity. We may still have dreams, but we do not sacrifice morality for them. We may still live fully, but no longer carelessly. This is the middle path of wise reflection, not rejection of youth, not hatred of the body, not sadness toward life. Instead, a clear and loving understanding. This life is passing. This body is changing. This strength is temporary. Therefore, let me not waste it in arrogance. Let me not spend it in cruelty. Let me not throw it into heedless pleasure and then inherit sorrow. Let me use what remains for generosity, virtue, meditation, understanding, and compassion. One day, if old age comes, may we meet it with fewer regrets. May we look back and know that when we had strength, we used it to protect rather than harm. When we had beauty, we did not use it to deceive. When we had influence, we did not use it to oppress. When we had time, we did not spend all of it asleep in desire. May the mind, though the body weakens, be supported by the wholesome karma it has cultivated. This is why the Buddha gave the reflection before the lost becomes undeniable. He did not wait until our hands tremble to tell us they will tremble. He did not wait until our hair turns white to tell us it will not remain black. He did not wait until we are dependent to tell us not to be proud. Out of compassion, he placed the mirror before us while we can still choose. Look gently, look honestly. This body is aging. This face is aging. This life is moving. Nothing in youth can be kept by force, but goodness can be cultivated. Wisdom can be developed. Compassion can be strengthened. The mind can be freed from its intoxication. And when the reflection enters deeply, it does not steal joy from life. It removes the poison from joy. It allows us to love without clinging so tightly, to care without vanity, to act without heedlessness, to cherish the present without being drunk on it. We become more human, not less, more awake, not more afraid. So today, while breath is still steady, while the body still answers, while the mind can still listen, let us remember, I am subject to aging. Aging is unavoidable. I have not gone beyond aging. May this truth humble the proud places in us. May it soften the harsh places. May it awaken gratitude for this fragile day. And may it guide our hands, speech, and thoughts away from unwholesome karma toward what is skillful, bright, and freeing. And even before old age arrives, another messenger may knock at the door without warning. Illness. Illness is the second messenger, and often it arrives more suddenly than aging. Aging may be seen from a distance, like dusk slowly gathering at the edge of the sky. But sickness can come in the morning, while plans are still fresh, while the heart is still full of ordinary concerns, while we are thinking about work, family, money, reputation, or tomorrow's small pleasures. A fever, a sharp pain, a strange weakness, a word from a doctor, an accident on a familiar road, and suddenly the body we trusted becomes a place of uncertainty. The Buddha asked his disciples to reflect again and again. I am subject to illness. I have not gone beyond illness. Illness is unavoidable. This reflection is not meant to make us gloomy. It is meant to make us honest, because the body, though we care for it, wash it, feed it, dress it, strengthen it, decorate it, and protect it, is fragile by its very nature. It is made of conditions. It depends on breath, blood, warmth, food, sleep, balance, countless invisible processes working together moment by moment. When those conditions support one another, we call it health. When they falter, we call it sickness. But both are woven into the same body. Health is not a permanent possession. It is a temporary harmony. And because health feels so natural when we have it, we easily become intoxicated by it. When the body is strong, we believe in our own energy. We wake up and move without pain, and we imagine this will continue. We eat without thinking deeply, speak without restraint, stay awake late, chase desires, overwork, overindulge, and postpone what is wholesome. We tell ourselves, there will be time later. I will practice later. I will forgive later. I will change later. I will be generous later. I will take care of my mind later. Health becomes a kind of dream, and in that dream we forget the truth. We see sick people and feel sorry for them. But somewhere quietly inside, we may think their condition belongs to them, not to us. Pain belongs to other people. Hospitals are for other families. Medicines are for another stage of life. Weakness is something distant. We hear of someone being diagnosed, someone collapsing, someone losing the strength to walk, speak, or remember, and for a moment we feel shaken. But then daily life rushes back in, and the old intoxication returns. This is the danger of health when it is not accompanied by wisdom. It can make us careless. It can make us proud. It can make us cruel without noticing. A person who feels strong may look down on those who are weak. A person who has never been seriously ill may judge the tired, the slow, the anxious, the dependent. We may become impatient with the suffering of others, because our own body has not yet taught us humility. We may speak harshly, thinking others should simply endure. We may demand too much, forgive too little, and assume that everyone has the same strength we enjoy today. But the body is not a contract. It does not promise us anything. One day, a person is walking quickly, answering messages, making plans, thinking about the next achievement. The next day, that same person may be lying still, listening to the sound of machines, depending on nurses, waiting for results. One day, a mother is caring for everyone in the house. The next day, she is the one being cared for. One day, a young man is proud of his power, his beauty, his endurance. The next day, he cannot stand without help. One day, a business seems urgent, an argument seems important, a desire seems impossible to resist. The next day, all of it becomes small beside one question. Will this body recover? Illness has a way of stripping away our illusions of control. It enters the room and rearranges everything. Plans are interrupted. Ambitions lose their shine. The calendar becomes uncertain. The body, which once served as our instrument, becomes a teacher we cannot ignore. We begin to see how much of our identity depended on strength. I am successful. I am attractive. I am independent. I am useful. I am in control. But when sickness comes, these ideas tremble. We discover that what we called I was tied to conditions that can change in a single night. There is an old story told among village elders. about a wealthy merchant who boasted that he had never spent a single day in bed. He ate what he pleased, slept when he pleased, and mocked the neighbors who visited healers and monks for small aches. "My body has never betrayed me," he liked to say, "and it never will." One evening, while counting the day's profit by lamplight, a pain rose quietly behind his ribs, unannounced by any warning. With the hour he could not stand. Within a season he could not walk to his own gate. The physicians who came could offer comfort but no promise. Lying there, he understood at last what he had refused to hear from every teacher who had ever crossed his path, that the body he called strong had only ever been borrowed, and the bill, though long delayed, was never forgiven. He did not become bitter. Instead, in the slow months that followed, he began giving away what he had hoarded, visiting the sick he had once avoided, and telling anyone who would listen, "Do not wait for the pain to teach you what health could have taught you for free." To remember this while we are healthy is a form of mercy. It helps us not wait until pain overwhelms the mind before we begin to live wisely. It helps us use our strength in the right way. Health is precious not because it allows us to chase every desire, but because it gives us the energy to cultivate goodness. It gives us the chance to refrain from harmful actions before regret becomes heavy. It gives us the chance to speak gently while our voice is still clear. It gives us the chance to serve others while our hands are still steady. It gives us the chance to bow, to listen, to learn, to meditate, to give, to reconcile, to ask forgiveness, and to forgive. So, while the body is well, do not use it only for craving. Use it for kindness, use it for patience, use it for generosity. Use it to protect life, not harm it. Use it to support parents, children, friends, teachers, strangers, and those who are weaker than you. Use it to create wholesome karma, because when sickness comes, the mind may not have the same ease. Pain can be consuming, fear can be strong, confusion can arise. Medication, exhaustion, worry, and discomfort may make practice difficult. Therefore, the wise person trains before the storm. This does not mean a sick person cannot practice. Many people awaken deep courage, faith, and tenderness in the midst of illness. Sometimes a hospital bed becomes a monastery cell. Sometimes pain becomes a bell of mindfulness. Sometimes the nearness of uncertainty reveals what years of comfort concealed. But it is still wise not to wait. It is wise to prepare the heart while conditions are favorable. Just as one repairs the roof before the rain, one cultivates the mind before suffering becomes intense. And what should we cultivate first? We cultivate restraint. Knowing that this body is vulnerable, we become more careful with our actions. We understand that harm done in a moment of anger may bear fruit long after the strength of the body has faded. We understand that cruel speech, dishonesty, exploitation, and violence do not disappear simply because we later become weak. Karma follows intention. It is not impressed by beauty, youth, status, or physical power. If we plant bitter seeds while healthy, we cannot expect sweetness when suffering ripens. Second, we cultivate gentleness. Illness teaches us that everyone carries a hidden fragility. The person who irritates us may be living with pain we cannot see. The one who speaks sharply may be afraid. The one who moves slowly may be fighting a battle within the body. When we remember our own vulnerability, we become less eager to wound others. We pause before speaking. We soften the tone. We choose words that heal rather than words that burn. A gentle word is not weakness. It is wisdom expressed through compassion. Third, we cultivate generosity. Health gives us the ability to give in many ways. We can give material support, time, labor, attention, comfort, protection, and presence. We can visit the sick. We can sit beside the lonely. We can cook a meal, clean a room, hold a hand, listen without rushing, or simply let someone know they are not forgotten. These acts may seem small, but in the field of karma, no sincere goodness is wasted. A cup of water offered with compassion may shine brighter than a grand gesture done for praise. Fourth, we cultivate mindfulness of the body, not with vanity, but with understanding. We care for the body because it is a vehicle for practice, not because it can be made permanent. We eat with moderation, rest with gratitude, move with awareness, and avoid abusing the body through heedlessness. Yet even as we care for it, we do not cling to it as self. We see its changing nature. We see that it is not fully under our command. We see that it deserves care, but not worship, gratitude, but not delusion. When sickness appears in others, it becomes a mirror. Instead of turning away, we can look with compassion. A sick person is not an interruption to our comfort. A sick person is a messenger of truth. In their tired eyes, in their careful steps, in their need for support, we see the shared condition of all beings. We are companions in samsara, not owners of separate destinies. Today another person is weak, and we are strong. Tomorrow the roles may change. Today we offer help. Tomorrow we may receive it. This is not shameful. This is the nature of embodied life. Pride weakens when we truly contemplate illness. We stop imagining ourselves as superior because of temporary strength. We stop measuring human worth by productivity, beauty, speed, or independence. We begin to see the dignity of those who suffer. We begin to understand that a person lying in bed may be practicing more patience than we have ever known. Someone living with chronic pain may be cultivating endurance quietly every day. Someone facing a frightening diagnosis may be meeting impermanence with a courage that cannot be seen from the outside. And when we ourselves fall ill, this reflection can become a refuge. Instead of thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" we may remember, this too belongs to the nature of the body. I am not the only one. Countless beings know pain. Countless beings fear loss. Countless beings seek relief. In that remembrance, the heart opens. Sickness may still hurt, but it does not have to become hatred. Pain may still be present, but it does not have to become bitterness. Vulnerability may still tremble, but it can be held within compassion. This is the great transformation the Buddha points toward. The reflection on illness is not merely a thought about future suffering. It is a medicine for present delusion. It removes the intoxication that says, "I am safe because I am healthy. I can delay goodness because I have time. I can act carelessly because consequences are far away." It wakes us up and says, "Do not waste this strength. Do not waste this breath. Do not wait for the body to fail before the heart becomes sincere. If there is someone you need to forgive, do not assume the body will give you endless chances. If there is someone you need to thank, speak while speech is possible. If there is a harmful habit draining your life, do not wait until illness makes change harder. If there is goodness you have been postponing, begin now. Offer what you can. Practice as you can. Turn the mind toward what is wholesome as you can. No one is asked to do beyond their capacity, but each of us is asked not to be heedless with the capacity we have. The healthy body is like a lamp in a windy place. While it burns, it gives light, but the wind is always near. Illness may come gently like a slow dimming, or suddenly like a gust through an open door. We do not know. What we do know is that every moment of clarity can be used wisely. Every day of strength can become a field of merit. Every act of restraint can prevent future sorrow. Every act of kindness can become a shelter for the mind. So let us reflect with tenderness, not fear. I am subject to illness. Illness is unavoidable. I have not gone beyond illness. May this reflection free us from the arrogance of health. May it teach us to care for the body without being deceived by it. May it open our eyes to the suffering of others and make our hands more willing to help. May it remind us that strength is not for domination, pleasure is not for forgetfulness, and time is not guaranteed. While we are able, let us avoid unwholesome deeds. While we are able, let us speak words that do not leave wounds behind. While we are able, let us give, serve, meditate, learn, and purify the heart. Because when sickness comes, the wealth we gathered may not comfort us, the praise we received may not protect us, and the pleasures we chased may not stay, but wholesome karma, cultivated with sincerity, becomes a quiet companion. A trained mind becomes a refuge. A compassionate heart becomes light in a difficult hour. Aging has already shown us that the body moves toward decline. Illness shows us that even before decline is complete, the body can be shaken at any time. These two messengers stand close to us, asking us to awaken, not tomorrow, not when life becomes convenient, not when every problem has disappeared, but here in this fragile human condition, while breath still enters and leaves, while awareness can still turn toward truth. Yet aging and illness are only two shadows of impermanence. Behind them stands the certainty that every life must end. And so the third reflection comes to us with a quiet power. I am subject to death. Death is unavoidable. I have not gone beyond death. There is no one born into this world who can bargain with this truth. No one. No matter how loved, how protected, how strong, how intelligent, how successful, can keep this body forever. The body that we wash, dress, feed, admire, and defend will one day be laid down. The breath that now moves so naturally through the chest will one day stop. The eyes that open each morning will one day not open again. The hands that hold, build, write, touch, and comfort will one day become still. This is not a thought meant to frighten the heart. It is not a teaching of darkness. It is a bell of wisdom. It calls us back from sleep. It reminds us that life is not a possession but a passing condition, something entrusted to us for a little while. When the Buddha invited his disciples to reflect on death, he did not do so to make them sorrowful. He did so to free them from carelessness, from heedlessness, from the intoxication of being alive. For most of us, death is something we admit with our mouths, but deny with our lives. We say, everyone must die. We have heard it since childhood. We have seen funerals. We have lost grandparents, neighbors, teachers, friends, sometimes even those much younger than ourselves. We know that death exists. Yet we continue to live as though death has made a special exception for us. We plan as though we are guaranteed many years. We postpone goodness as though tomorrow has already signed a promise. We hold grudges as though we have unlimited time to make peace. We chase praise, pleasure, status, and possession as though they can protect us from the final breath. We argue over small things. We cling to later I will practice, later I will forgive, later I will care for my parents, later I will speak kindly, later I will turn my mind toward what is wholesome. But what is this later that we trust so much? Where is it kept? Who has given it to us? We wake in the morning and assume the evening will come. We leave the house and assume we will return. We send a message and assume there will be another reply. We say goodbye casually, sometimes without tenderness, because we believe we will meet again, and most days we do. This repeated return deceives us, because yesterday we returned. We think today we must return, because the breath came once more. We think it will always come, because the heart has beaten faithfully. Until now, we imagine it is under our command. But death does not ask whether we are ready. It does not wait until our rooms are clean, our debts are paid, our dreams are fulfilled, our apologies are spoken, our children are grown, our work is finished, or our hearts are prepared. Death does not come only after warning. Sometimes it comes softly, after long illness giving the family time to gather. Sometimes it comes suddenly, like lightning in a clear sky, and this is where the reflection becomes deep. Death is not reserved for the old. It is not reserved for those lying in hospital beds. It does not visit only the weak, the poor, the lonely, or the forgotten. The young may die, the healthy may die, the wealthy may die, the famous may die, the strong may die, the beautiful may die, the deeply loved may die. A person may laugh at noon and be gone by sunset. A person may speak of plans for next month and not live through the night. There are accidents on roads, in homes, in workplaces, in places where people expected nothing unusual. There is violence born of anger, confusion, or hatred. There are disasters that arrive without asking permission. There are sudden failures of the body hidden beneath ordinary appearance. There are causes we never see and cannot control. A person may be full of energy, praised by others, surrounded by opportunity, and yet the thread of life may be cut in an instant. Think of someone leaving home in the morning. Perhaps they are in a hurry. Perhaps they drink half a cup of tea, glance at their phone and say, "I'll be back later." Maybe they forget to say anything at all. The door closes behind them in the most ordinary way. The world continues. Sunlight touches the street. Cars move. Children go to school. Shops open. Messages arrive. They send a casual note to someone they love. "I'm on my way." They smile at a coworker. They complain lightly about the weather. They think about dinner, an appointment, a small problem, a future desire. Nothing in that morning announces itself as the last morning. Yet for some it is. The chair remains. The unfinished cup remains. The clothes in the room remain. The unread message remains. The people waiting at home continue waiting until waiting turns into worry, and worry turns into shock, and shock turns into grief. The ordinary day becomes a dividing line. Before this happened, and after this happened. A voice that seemed so available becomes a memory. A face that could be seen yesterday can no longer be touched today. And everyone says, "It was so sudden. We never thought it would happen like this." But death is often like this. It enters the ordinary. It does not need a dramatic doorway. It can come between one breath and the next. When we contemplate this sincerely, the purpose is not to become afraid of leaving home, afraid of loving, afraid of living. The purpose is to stop living blindly. The purpose is to understand that because life is uncertain, the heart must become careful, awake, and kind. When we remember death wisely, we do not become cold. We become more tender. We do not become hopeless. We become more honest. We do not reject the world with bitterness. We hold it with less delusion. A person who forgets death easily becomes careless. They may think, "I still have time to speak harshly and repair it later. I still have time to indulge anger and calm down later. I still have time to pursue selfish desire and become generous later. I still have time to create unwholesome karma and purify myself later." This is the intoxication of life. It is the mind drunk on the feeling of, "I am still alive." And from that intoxication, heedlessness arises. From heedlessness, unwholesome actions are born. We may hurt others because we assume there will be time to apologize. We may neglect those who love us because we assume they will always be there. We may waste days in envy, resentment, and distraction because we assume there are countless days ahead. We may keep postponing the cultivation of virtue, generosity, mindfulness, and wisdom because the mind whispers, "Not now, there is still time." But the reflection on death cuts through that whisper. It asks gently but directly, if this were your final day, would this anger still be worth carrying? If this were your final conversation, would you choose these words? If this were your last chance to help, would you turn away? If this were your last night alive, what would you regret not having done? What would you wish you had released? Whom would you wish you had forgiven? What goodness would you wish you had planted? These questions are not meant to make us panic. They are meant to make us clear. To remember death is to put life in right proportion. Many things that seemed urgent become small. Many things we ignored become precious. The need to win every argument weakens. The desire to appear superior loses its shine. The habit of delaying love becomes foolish. The heart begins to understand that what matters most is not how much we gathered, not how loudly we were praised, not how many people admired us, but what kind of karma we created through body, speech, and mind. Did we harm or did we protect? Did we deceive or did we speak truth? Did we consume our days in greed, hatred, and delusion? Or did we cultivate generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom? Did we leave behind fear in the hearts of others, or comfort? Did we make the world heavier or did we lighten it, even a little? When death approaches, the body cannot be taken as refuge. It may have been strong once, but strength fades. Wealth cannot be taken as refuge. It may pay for many things, but it cannot purchase one extra breath when the conditions of life are exhausted. Reputation cannot be taken as refuge. The opinions of others cannot cross the threshold of death for us. Even loved ones, though they may hold our hands, weep beside us, and call our name, cannot breathe in our place. They cannot carry our karma for us. Only karma follows. This is why reflection on death is inseparable from reflection on action. If life can end at any time, then every moment matters. Not because we must accomplish everything, but because each intention leaves a trace. Each thought of kindness matters. Each restraint from cruelty matters. Each moment of mindfulness matters. Each act of generosity matters. Each time we choose patience over anger, truth over deception, compassion over indifference, we are building a refuge that does not depend on the body's survival. The wise do not wait for death to become real at the bedside. They bring death into awareness while life is still active. They remember it while walking, eating, working, speaking, resting. Not obsessively, not with despair, but with a steady understanding. This breath is uncertain. This day is not guaranteed. Let me not be careless. Let me not waste this human birth. In Buddhist practice, mindfulness of death is a medicine for arrogance and procrastination. It softens the pride that says, I am young. It softens the confidence that says, I am healthy. It softens the illusion that says, I am safe. It softens the attachment that says, this life is mine to control. When the mind sees that death is certain, but the time of death is uncertain, it becomes more humble. It stops demanding that life obey its desires. It becomes more willing to practice now. This does not mean we abandon our responsibilities. We still care for family. We still work. We still plan. We still build, learn, love, and serve. But we do these things with a different heart. We no longer imagine that worldly success alone can save us. We no longer sacrifice our conscience for temporary gain. We no longer let hatred occupy the heart as though the heart were a storage place for poison. We begin to live with urgency, but not panic, with tenderness, but not clinging, with purpose, but not arrogance. There were once two friends who had grown up sharing everything, until a dispute over a small debt turned into years of cold silence between them. Each waited for the other to apologize first, certain that pride was a small price to pay for being right. They lived in the same town, saw each other at markets and festivals, and each time looked away. One of them planned quietly to make peace eventually, perhaps at the next festival, perhaps, when the debt was finally settled in his own mind. The other friend died suddenly in his sleep before that festival arrived, and the news reached the surviving friend on an ordinary afternoon while he was mending a fence. He stood there for a long time with the hammer still in his hand, understanding that the conversation he had been rehearsing for years would now never happen in this life. He carried that unfinished sentence with him for the rest of his days, and told the story often to younger people, not to make them sad, but so that they would not wait as he had waited. A person who remembers death may forgive faster, not because harm does not matter, but because they understand the cost of carrying hatred. Life is short. Why let the mind burn for years? Why rehearse old wounds until they become an identity? Forgiveness does not always mean returning to the same closeness. It does not mean approving what was wrong, but it means releasing the inner chain, refusing to let anger shape the final quality of one's heart. A person who remembers death may speak more carefully. Words can be the last gift we give someone. A simple kindness may become a memory that supports another person for years. A harsh word may become a wound that remains after we are gone. Since we do not know which conversation will be the last, wise speech becomes urgent. Gentle speech becomes precious. Silence, when it prevents harm, becomes noble. A person who remembers death may waste less time in meaningless distraction. They may still rest, laugh, enjoy beauty, and live naturally. But they become less willing to lose themselves completely in things that leave the heart empty. They begin to ask, what is this doing to my mind? Is this feeding greed? Is this feeding hatred? Is this feeding delusion? Or is it helping me become more awake, more compassionate, more free? And a person who remembers death may love more wisely. They know that every meeting is uncertain, so they do not take people for granted. They look more fully, they listen more deeply, they appreciate small moments. A shared meal, a familiar voice, someone's footsteps in the house, the warmth of a hand, the chance to say, thank you, the chance to say I am sorry, the chance to say, may you be well. Death teaches us that ordinary moments are not ordinary. They are temporary openings in the great flow of conditions. What we call my life is made of such openings appearing and vanishing. If we are heedless, we miss them. If we are awake, even a simple breath can become a reminder of the path. The reflection is simple, but it must be brought close. I am subject to death. I cannot escape death. Death will come to me. I do not know when. Let this not make the mind gloomy. Let it make the mind honest. Let it remove the intoxication that leads to evil deeds. Let it encourage the heart to abandon what is unwholesome and cultivate what is wholesome. Let it remind us that anger is dangerous, greed is unreliable, pride is foolish, and delay is not our friend. Let it guide us back to generosity, virtue, meditation, and wisdom according to our ability, while we still can. Because one day, the breath we are waiting to use for practice will not come. One day, the body we trusted will no longer answer. One day, the world will continue without our footsteps in it. The question is not whether that day will come. It will. The question is how we shall live before it comes. If today were the last day, may we not leave behind unnecessary cruelty. May we not leave behind words sharpened by pride. May we not leave behind a heart wasted in resentment. May we use this brief human life to create causes of peace. May we become careful with our actions, sincere in our practice, and compassionate toward all beings who, like us, are walking toward death without knowing the hour. When death is remembered in this way, it becomes a teacher. It stands beside us, not as an enemy, but as a silent guide pointing toward what cannot be postponed. It tells us awaken now, love wisely now, practice now. Do not wait until the final breath to understand the value of the breath you are taking. And when we see that life itself cannot be held, we begin to understand another truth. Everything and everyone dear to us must one day be parted from us. This is not an easy truth to let into the heart. Even when we understand it with our reason, something inside us still resists. We look at the faces of those we love, and we quietly hope they will remain. We touch the things we have worked hard to obtain, and we feel, almost without noticing, that they belong to us in a lasting way. We build a home, a family, a name, a life, and deep in the mind, there is a wish that the arrangement of today will not be disturbed tomorrow. A fisherman once rowed out with his father every morning before sunrise. The same routine repeated for so many years that neither of them thought to mention how much it meant to them. The father grew slower with each season, his hands less certain on the nets, but the son assumed there would always be another morning to make up for the mornings spent in silence instead of conversation. Then one week the father did not wake for the boat. There had been no illness anyone could name, only the quiet stopping of an old engine that had simply run its course. In the months afterward, the son found himself rowing out alone, rehearsing in his mind all the words he had meant to say and never had. Gratitude for the patience shown him as a boy, forgiveness for arguments long forgotten by everyone but him. Simple affection he had assumed did not need saying because it was already understood. He began to speak those words instead to his own children, on ordinary mornings, without waiting for a special occasion, because he had learned the hard way that no morning announces itself as the last one. The Buddha asked his disciples to reflect again and again on this very truth. I must be separated from all who are dear and beloved to me. I must be separated from all things I cherish and enjoy. This reflection is not meant to make the heart cold. It is not a teaching that asks us to stop loving our parents, our children, our partner, our friends, or the beings who have walked with us through difficult days. It does not ask us to look at life with indifference, as though nothing matters. In truth, it teaches the opposite. It teaches us to love more wisely, more tenderly, more awake. It teaches us to love without closing our eyes to impermanence. It teaches us to care deeply, but not to demand from people and things what they can never give. Permanence, ownership, unchanging presence. There is a kind of love that brings warmth to the world. It protects, nourishes, forgives, and gives. And there is a kind of attachment that disguises itself as love, but quietly says, "You must stay as I want you to be. You must not change, you must not leave. You must continue to make me feel secure." When life does not obey that demand, the mind breaks into grief, anger, fear, and resentment. The pain of separation is natural, but attachment makes that pain heavier than it needs to be. It adds resistance to sorrow. It adds the cry of, "This should not happen," to the simple fact that it has happened. We see this everywhere in human life. A parent grows old, and one day the voice that once called our name becomes weak. The hands that once carried us begin to tremble. We know, somewhere in the back of the mind, that one day they will not be here. Yet when that day comes, it still feels impossible. We may feel as though the ground of childhood has vanished beneath us. Memories return with great force. A meal prepared for us, a small act of kindness, a sacrifice we did not understand at the time. If we have left words unsaid, regret may rise like fire. If we have carried anger too long, the heart may ache with the wish to go back and soften what was hard. Children also separate from us. At first they are held in our arms, completely dependent, looking to us for safety. Then slowly they grow. They step beyond the circle of our protection. They make choices we may not fully understand. They leave home. They build their own lives. Sometimes they move far away. Sometimes even while living nearby, their inner world becomes a place we cannot enter as we once did. A parent may suffer not because the child has done wrong, but because the mind clings to an earlier version of the child and says, "Remain as you were, need me as you once needed me. Let me be central forever." But life does not move backward. Love must learn to bless what it cannot control. Relationships change. Two people who once spoke with tenderness may become strangers. A friendship that once felt unbreakable may fade under the weight of distance, misunderstanding, or simply the movement of time. Someone we trusted may choose another path. Someone we depended on may no longer be able to stand beside us. In those moments, attachment often looks for someone to blame. The mind says, "How could this change? How could they leave? How could something so meaningful become so distant?" But the deeper truth is that every meeting contains the seed of parting. Every hello is already walking toward goodbye. This does not make the meeting meaningless. It makes it precious. We are also separated from possessions. A house may be lost through poverty, fire, flood, conflict, or circumstance. Wealth that took decades to gather may disappear in a season. A position of respect may be taken away. A business may fail. A body of work may be forgotten. An object passed down the generations may break or vanish. Sometimes the lost thing is not expensive, but deeply cherished. A photograph, a ring, a letter, a small gift from someone who is gone. When such things are taken from us, the pain is not only about the object itself. It is about the memories, identity, and sense of continuity that the mind has tied to it. The world keeps reminding us that nothing can be held exactly as it is. Yet the untrained mind continues to whisper, "Mine, my family, my partner, my child, my house, my youth, my beauty, my reputation, my success." my memories, my way of life. This word, mine, can be useful in ordinary speech, but when the heart believes it absolutely, suffering begins. Because what we call mine is still governed by causes and conditions. It comes together for a while, changes according to its nature, and passes away when the conditions no longer support it. To reflect on separation is to gently train the heart before the storm arrives. If we wait until loss strikes, the mind may be too overwhelmed to see clearly. But if each day we remember, all that is loved must be separated, then the heart becomes humble. It does not take today for granted. It does not assume that there will always be time. It begins to understand that the people before us are not possessions, but guests in the same fragile world. They have their own karma, their own path, their own aging, sickness, and death. We may accompany them for a while, but we cannot own their journey. This understanding can change the way we speak. If we remember separation, we become less willing to postpone kind words. We stop assuming that apology can always wait. We stop treating affection as something to be hidden behind pride. How many people carry sorrow because they waited too long to say, "Thank you, I forgive you, I was wrong, I love you, or you mattered to me"? The practice of wise love invites us to speak what is wholesome while there is still a listener, not with panic, not with clinging, but with sincerity. A kind word spoken today may become a lamp in another person's heart long after the moment has passed. It also changes the way we care. To care without possession means we offer support, but we do not demand ownership over the outcome. We guide a child, but we do not try to live through them. We love a partner, but we do not reduce them to a source of comfort for our own insecurity. We honor our parents, but we accept that we cannot stop their aging. We help a friend, but we do not bind them with expectation. Wise love is active, not passive. It cooks the meal, makes the call, listens patiently, gives generously, and shows up when needed. But it does all this with an open hand, not a closed fist. An open hand can give and receive. Closed fist can only grasp, and what it grasps, it fears losing. This is why attachment is so exhausting. It never truly rests. Even in moments of happiness, it trembles. When we sit with someone we love, attachment quietly worries, what if this ends? When we enjoy success, it worries, what if I lose this? When we possess something beautiful, it worries, what if it is taken? The pleasure is mixed with fear because the mind is trying to find safety in what cannot be secured. The Buddha's reflection does not remove the tenderness of life. It removes the delusion that tenderness can be protected by clinging. A flower is beautiful, though it fades. A song is moving, though it ends. A sunset can fill the heart, though it lasts only moments. In the same way, a human relationship is not made worthless by impermanence. Its impermanence may be the very reason we should meet it with reverence. We do not need to harden ourselves against love. We need to awaken within love. When someone dear is still alive, we can practice seeing them clearly, not as a permanent refuge, not as an object that exists to satisfy us, but as a living being subject to aging, sickness, death, and separation just like us. When we see this, irritation softens. Petty arguments lose some of their importance. The small habits that once annoyed us may become less powerful than the awareness that this person too is fragile. This does not mean we allow harm or abandon wisdom. It means that even when boundaries are needed, hatred is not. Even when distance is necessary, cruelty is not. Even when a relationship changes, the heart can try not to poison itself with bitterness. When possessions are still with us, we can use them wisely. A home can shelter kindness. Wealth can support generosity. A good reputation can be used to benefit others. Beautiful things can be enjoyed with gratitude. But if we forget their impermanent nature, they become chains. We begin to live in fear of loss. We measure ourselves by what we own. We look down on others or envy those who have more. Then when change comes, we suffer twice. Once from the loss itself, and again from the collapse of the identity we built around it. To reflect on separation is not to reject the world, but to relate to it honestly. We may still love our home, but we know it can burn, break, be sold, or be left behind. We may still cherish family gatherings, but we know that one day the chairs around the table will change. We may still enjoy our abilities, our role, our influence, but we know that status rises and falls like shadows in the afternoon. When this knowing becomes part of us, gratitude deepens. We begin to enjoy without intoxication. We begin to give without arrogance. We begin to lose without being completely destroyed. Still, we should be gentle with ourselves. The heart does not release attachment in one moment simply because it has heard a teaching. When separation comes, tears may still fall. The Buddha did not deny the human feeling of grief. What he showed was the path beyond drowning in it. There is a difference between grief touched by wisdom and grief consumed by clinging. Grief touched by wisdom says, "This is painful because there was love. This being this time, this condition has changed. May I meet this truth with compassion." Grief consumed by clinging says, "This must not be. I cannot accept it. I refuse." The first can fragile it. The second keeps reopening the wound. So we train now in small ways. When a pleasant moment ends, we notice the ending without resentment. When plans change, we breathe and learn flexibility. When an object breaks, we observe the mind's reaction. When someone does not respond as we hoped, we look at the expectation beneath our disappointment. These small separations are teachers. They prepare us for the greater separations that no one can avoid. Each one asks, can you love this life without trying to imprison it? Can you receive what comes and release what goes? The fourth reflection is a mirror held before the heart. It asks us to look at the people we love and understand. They are not ours in the way craving imagines. They are companions for a time. It asks us to look at our possessions and understand. They are tools, conditions, passing supports, not a self. It asks us to look at our own life and understand. Everything gathered will disperse. Everything built will change. Everything embraced will one day be released. And strangely, when this truth is accepted, love becomes more pure. We become less careless with the living. We become less enslaved by the things we own. We begin to value presence more than control, kindness more than pride, and generosity more than accumulation. We stop waiting for loss to teach us what mattered. We learn it while we can still act. Therefore, let us reflect with a calm and honest heart. I must be separated from all who are dear and beloved to me. I must be separated from all things I cherish and enjoy. May this reflection not make me cold. May it make me awake. May it help me love without grasping, care without controlling, and appreciate without forgetting impermanence. May it free me from the blindness that turns change into torment. May it guide me to live today with tenderness, humility, and wisdom. But if people, possessions, youth, health, and life cannot be owned, what truly follows us beyond every separation? What follows us is not the house we protected, not the name people praised, not the body we decorated, not even the people we loved with all our heart. What follows us is something much quieter, much more intimate, and much harder to escape. It is karma. The Blessed One taught us to reflect again and again. I am the owner of my karma. I am the heir to my karma. I am born of my karma. I am related to my karma. I am supported by my karma. Whatever karma I create, whether wholesome or unwholesome, I will inherit its result. At first, these words may sound solemn, even heavy. But if we listen deeply, they are not meant to frighten us. They are meant to wake us up. They are like a lamp placed in a dark room, showing us where we are standing and where the next step may lead. They remind us that life is not random in the way we often imagine. Every intention matters. Every action has weight. Every word leaves an echo. Every thought, when repeated, becomes a path in the heart. Karma is not a punishment handed down by someone outside us. It is not a reward given by a distant judge. Karma means intentional action. It is the movement of the heart expressed through body, speech, and mind. When we act with greed, hatred, and delusion, we plant seeds of suffering. When we act with generosity, kindness, and wisdom, we plant seeds of peace. Some seeds ripen quickly, like words spoken in anger that immediately wound a relationship. Some ripen slowly, like habits that shape the character over many years. Some may not ripen in this visible life, but they do not simply disappear. This is why the Buddha called karma our true inheritance. Everything else is borrowed for a while. Wealth is borrowed, beauty is borrowed, status is borrowed, health is borrowed, even the breath is borrowed. Arriving and leaving without asking our permission, we may say, "This is mine," but time quietly answers, "Only for now." A person may gather gold, land, followers, titles, and admiration. They may build a name so large that others speak it with respect. Yet at the moment of death, not one coin can be carried in the hand. Not one title can stand beside the final breath. Not one piece of praise can shield the mind from the results of its own actions. But karma follows. A person may be rich, but if they have lived by deceit, cruelty, and arrogance, those actions do not become harmless because the world applauded them. A person may be poor, unknown, and unnoticed, but if they have cultivated patience, honesty, compassion, and reverence for life, those actions do not become small because no one praised them. The world may forget, but karma does not forget. People may misunderstand, but karma does not misunderstand. Others may judge by appearance, but karma is connected to intention. This reflection brings us very close to ourselves. It does not allow us to hide behind excuses forever. It asks gently, but firmly, what are you doing with this mind? What are you doing with this life? What are you planting in the field of your own future? We often believe our inheritance is what our parents leave behind, what society gives us, what the economy permits, what our talents can achieve. Of course, these conditions matter. They affect the shape of our days. Some are born into ease, others into hardship. Some receive love early, others receive wounds. Some are protected, others must struggle before they even understand the world. The Buddha did not deny conditions, but he showed something deeper. Within conditions, intention still matters. Within pain, we can choose not to become cruel. Within success, we can choose not to become proud. Within confusion, we can seek wisdom. Within fear, I am the owner of my karma, is to accept that my actions belong to me. No one else can fully carry the hatred I nurture. No one else can fully take responsibility for the lies I tell, the harm I cause, the bitterness I feed, the compassion I refuse. In the same way, no one else can steal the goodness I cultivate. If I give with a sincere heart, that generosity becomes part of my path. If I restrain my anger when I could have injured someone, that restraint becomes a protection. If I speak truth when lying would have benefited me, that truthfulness becomes strength within the mind. This is deeply personal, more personal than our face, more personal than our family name, more personal than the stories others tell about us. Karma is intimate because it is made in the hidden chamber of intention. Two people may perform the same outward action, yet the inner quality may be different. One person gives to be admired, another gives to relieve suffering. One person speaks softly to manipulate, another speaks softly out of care. One person remains silent out of wisdom, another remains silent out of cowardice. Karma is not fooled by the surface, it follows the heart. When we reflect, I am the heir to my karma, we remember that we cannot choose the fruit after planting the seed. If we plant a thorn tree, we cannot demand mangoes. If we plant kindness, patience, and truth, we should not lose heart when the fruit takes time to ripen. Cause and effect have their own season. The wise do not despair when goodness is not immediately rewarded, and they do not become careless when wrongdoing is not immediately punished. They understand that not all results appear at once. A seed underground is still alive. Many people suffer because they want freedom from consequences, not freedom from unwholesome actions. They want peace while continuing to harm. They want trust while continuing to deceive. They want love while continuing to act selfishly. They want respect while speaking harshly. They want a beautiful destiny while planting confusion every day. This is like putting salt into water and expecting it to taste sweet. The reflection on karma cuts through this self-deception. It brings us back to honesty. If I want peace, I must cultivate causes of peace. If I want trust, I must become trustworthy. If I want a mind that is not tormented, I must stop feeding the fires that torment it. If I want a future free from terror, I must abandon actions that lead to fear and remorse. This is not merely philosophy, it is practical, it is as close as the next word we speak. Karma is also called our origin. I am born of my karma. This does not mean that one single action explains everything about life in a simple way. Karma is vast, complex, and interwoven with many conditions. But it means that intentional actions have the power to shape existence. They influence the stream of consciousness. They shape tendencies, perceptions, attractions, fears, and possibilities. What we repeatedly choose becomes easier to choose again. The angry mind becomes quick to anger. The generous mind becomes quick to give. The deceitful mind becomes skilled in hiding. The truthful mind becomes steady and clear. In this very life, we can see rebirth happening moment by moment. Each habit gives birth to the next version of ourselves. A person who practices resentment every day is reborn into a world full of enemies, even while living among friends. A person who practices gratitude is reborn into a world of blessings, even while facing difficulty. A person who practices greed is never rich enough. A person who practices contentment can breathe freely even with little. This is the immediate face of karma. Before we speak of future lives, we can see how karma creates worlds within this life, within this day, within this breath. Karma is my relative. This is a profound statement. We usually think our relatives are those connected to us by blood, marriage, affection, or shared history. But at death, even the most loving relatives must stop at the edge of the unknown. They may hold our hand. They may cry beside us. They may chant, pray, or remember us tenderly. Yet they cannot enter the results of our actions for us. They cannot take our place in the unfolding of our karma. Our true companion is what we have done with intention. If we have cultivated loving kindness, it comes with us like a gentle friend. If we have cultivated cruelty, it comes like a shadow we cannot outrun. If we have trained the mind in generosity, forgiveness, and wisdom, these qualities accompany us when all worldly companions fall away. This is why karma is nearer than family. It is with us in solitude. It is with us in public. It is with us when praised and when blamed. It is with us when the body is strong and when the body collapses. It does not wait outside the door. It lives in the current of becoming itself. And karma is our refuge. This may sound strange at first, because when we hear the word refuge, we think of something comforting, something safe. But karma as refuge means that wholesome action is a real protection, not an imaginary protection, not a superstition, but a protection rooted in cause and effect. When we refrain from killing, we protect others, and we protect ourselves from the coarsening of the heart. When we refrain from stealing, we protect others, and we protect ourselves from fear and distrust. When we refrain from sexual misconduct, we protect families, dignity, and trust. When we refrain from false speech, we protect the clarity of our mind. When we refrain from intoxicants that lead to heedlessness, we protect our mindfulness. Every wholesome restraint is a shelter. Every act of compassion is a shelter. Every moment of mindfulness is a shelter. Every time we choose not to return hatred with hatred, we build a refuge that no storm can entirely destroy. This reflection does not encourage blame. It does not tell us to look at someone who suffers and coldly say, "This is your karma." That would be a misuse of the teaching and a failure of compassion. The teaching on karma is meant first to humble ourselves, not to judge others. When we see another person suffering, our duty is compassion. When we look at our own choices, our duty is responsibility. Wisdom knows the difference. To believe in karma is not to become passive. It is not to say, whatever happens must happen, so I will do nothing. That is fatalism, not the Buddha's teaching. Karma means action matters. Because action matters, transformation is possible. Because intention matters, today is meaningful. Because wholesome causes lead toward wholesome results. We are not trapped in our past. Even if we have done wrong, we can stop, confess inwardly, feel remorse without drowning in despair, and begin again with care. The past may have planted seeds, but the present is also planting. This is why the reflection is so powerful. It turns the mind away from blame. We may have blamed fate, blamed parents, blamed society, blamed enemies, blamed bad luck, blamed the world. Sometimes conditions truly have harmed us, and acknowledging that is not wrong. But if we only blame conditions and never examine our own intentions, we remain asleep. The teaching asks us to reclaim the part of life that belongs to practice. What am I doing now? Am I adding hatred to hatred? Am I answering suffering with more suffering? Am I using my pain as permission to harm? Or am I using my pain as a doorway to compassion? When we truly understand karma, even ordinary moments become sacred. Washing a dish with irritation or with mindfulness is not the same. Speaking to a child with impatience or with tenderness is not the same. Driving through traffic with aggression or with restraint is not the same. Reading a message and choosing whether to answer with cruelty or understand, these are the places where karma is made. Not only in temples, not only in ceremonies, not only in dramatic turning points. Karma is shaped in the kitchen, in the marketplace, in the office, in the family room, in the silent thoughts we repeat when no one sees. A life is not built only by great decisions. It is built by repeated intentions. Drop by drop, water fills a jar. Thought by thought, word by word, deed by deed, character is formed, and from character, destiny unfolds. So we reflect not to become afraid of living, but to become careful in the most beautiful sense. Careful with speech, because words can heal or wound. Careful with desire, because unchecked craving can lead us into harm. Careful with anger, because one moment of rage can burn what took years to build. Careful with pride, because it blinds us to our own faults. Careful with kindness too, making sure it is not postponed until life becomes convenient. The fifth reflection is a mirror. It shows us that when all borrowed things are returned, karma remains. If we have spent our life chasing what cannot follow us, we may reach the end with empty hands and a frightened heart. But if we have cultivated goodness, even quietly, even imperfectly, then we have not lived in vain. A kind word remains in the stream of karma. A generous act remains. A moment of forgiveness remains. A sincere effort to understand the Dhamma remains. A single decision not to harm, made in a moment when harm was possible, remains. Therefore, let us reflect with courage. I am the owner of my karma. I am the heir to my karma. I am related to my karma. I am supported by my karma. Whatever I do, for good or for harm, I will inherit that result. May this reflection make us honest. May it make us gentle. May it make us less careless with the mind. May it help us stop creating the very suffering we fear. May it strengthen our confidence in cause and effect, so that we do not drift through life as if our choices were weightless. And may it inspire us, while breath still remains, to abandon what is dark and cultivate what is bright. Because once we understand that karma follows us, we must look carefully at how unwholesome karma is born in moments of heedlessness. Heedlessness does not usually appear in our lives as something loud and frightening. It does not always come with a clear warning, saying, "Now you are about to create suffering." More often, it enters quietly. It feels like relaxation without wisdom, confidence without reflection, desire without restraint. It whispers, "Just this once, it does not matter, no one will know, there will be no consequence." In the language of practice, heedlessness is a kind of spiritual forgetfulness. It is not merely forgetting where we placed our keys, or forgetting an appointment. It is forgetting what truly matters. It is forgetting that every intention leaves a trace in the heart. It is forgetting that speech can heal or wound. It is forgetting that actions do not disappear simply because the moment has passed. It is forgetting impermanence, forgetting morality, forgetting compassion, forgetting the preciousness of this human life. When the mind is heedless, it loses sight of consequence. It sees only the immediate pleasure, the immediate advantage, the immediate relief of anger or craving. It does not ask, "What will this become?" It does not ask, "What will this do to my heart?" It does not ask, "Will this bring peace, or will it bring regret?" Like a person walking in darkness near the edge of a cliff, the heedless mind may still be moving, still choosing, still speaking, but it no longer sees clearly where its steps are leading. This is why the Buddha pointed again and again to the danger of intoxication. Not only intoxication with wine or drugs, but intoxication with youth, intoxication with health, intoxication with life itself. When we are young, we may feel as if time belongs to us. When the body is strong, we may feel as if sickness is something that happens to other people. When life is moving forward smoothly, we may feel as if death is far away, waiting at some distant edge of the road. And under the influence of these intoxications, the mind becomes careless. Carelessness does not mean that a person is evil. It means the person has stopped remembering aging, stopped remembering sickness, stopped remembering death, stopped remembering separation, stopped remembering karma. And when these reflections fade, restraint becomes weak. The mind begins to say, "I can do what I want. I can speak what I want. I can harm if it benefits me. I can ignore pain if it is not my own." From intoxication comes heedlessness. From heedlessness comes the weakening of conscience. From the weakening of conscience comes unwholesome action. And from unwholesome action comes suffering. This chain can be seen not only in great crimes, but in small ordinary moments, the very moments that make up daily life. A person lies to protect the ego. Perhaps the lie is not enormous. Perhaps it is only a small distortion, a rearranging of facts, a hiding of responsibility. But beneath it, there is fear, pride, and attachment to image. The person does not want to appear wrong, weak, careless, or guilty. So the tongue moves, and the truth is covered. In that moment, heedlessness has already entered. The person forgets that truthfulness is a protection. The person forgets that a lie may save face for a moment, but it weakens the heart's relationship with honesty. Another person speaks harshly in anger. The words rise like fire. They are sharp, fast, and full of heat. In that moment, the person may feel powerful. There is a strange satisfaction in releasing anger without restraint. But after the fire passes, what remains? A wounded relationship, a disturbed mind, sometimes shame, sometimes stubbornness, sometimes a silence that lasts for years. The heedless mind, intoxicated by the force of its own emotion, forgets that words cannot be easily gathered back once they have entered another person's heart. Someone else exploits another human being for profit, comfort, pleasure, or status. It may be in business, it may be in family, it may be in friendship, it may be hidden behind polite language and respectable clothing. But the intention is to use rather than to care, to take more than is fair, to benefit from another person's weakness, poverty, trust, loneliness, or lack of power. This too is unwholesome karma. The heedless mind forgets that others tremble as we tremble. Others hope as we hope. Others fear loss and pain as we do. Compassion is forgotten. People become tools. And when people become tools, the heart has already fallen into darkness. There is also the heedlessness of addiction. A person may know that something is damaging the body, damaging the mind, damaging the family, damaging the future. Yet the craving says, again the drink, again the drug, again the screen, again the gambling, again the pleasure that gives a little escape and leaves a deeper hunger behind. This kind of heedlessness is especially painful because the person may not even want to continue. Yet the mind has been trained by repetition to run toward its own bondage. Here too, the teaching is not given for condemnation, but for awakening. The Buddha's path does not say, "You are hopeless," it says, "Look carefully, understand the cause. Begin again, guard the mind now." There is the unwholesome karma of betraying trust. A promise is made, then broken for convenience. A confidence is shared, then repeated for entertainment. A loyal heart is deceived for a moment of pleasure. These actions may be hidden from the eyes of the world, but they are not hidden from karma. More importantly, they are not hidden from the heart that performs them. Even if the mind tries to justify itself, something within becomes less steady, less clean, less bright. Trust is one of the delicate bridges between beings. To betray it heedlessly is to damage not only another person's faith, but also our own capacity to live with integrity. There is the unwholesome karma of harming animals, sometimes through cruelty, sometimes through indifference, sometimes for amusement, sometimes simply because their suffering is inconvenient to notice. A small creature struggles, and the heedless mind says, "It does not matter." But if we train the mind to dismiss suffering when it appears in a weaker form, we are training the heart away from compassion. The practice asks us to become sensitive, not sentimental in a shallow way, but deeply awake to the wish for life that moves through all beings. A being does not need human language to fear pain. A being does not need to be useful to deserve kindness. There is also the heedlessness of ignoring those in need. Not every situation allows us to help in the same way. We cannot carry the entire world on our shoulders, but there are moments when help is possible, and the heart knows it is possible. A kind word could be spoken, a hand could be offered, a meal could be shared, a lonely person could be heard, a suffering person could be treated not as a burden, but as a human being. Yet the heedless mind turns away too quickly. It says, "I am busy. This is not my concern. Someone else will do it." And little by little, the heart becomes skilled in not seeing. This is why moral shame and moral fear are so important in the Buddha's teaching. In ordinary language, shame can sound heavy, harmful, or humiliating. But noble shame is not self-hatred. It is not the feeling, "I am worthless." It is the wise and dignified reluctance to degrade oneself through unwholesome action. It is the inner voice that says, "This is beneath the goodness I am capable of. This would stain the mind. This would harm me and harm others. I should not do this." Noble shame protects our humanity. It reminds us that we are not merely creatures of appetite, anger, and impulse. We have the capacity to choose. We have the capacity to refrain. We have the capacity to rise above the lowest movement of the mind. When a person feels this wholesome shame before lying, before stealing, before cruelty, before betrayal, that shame is not a weakness. It is a guardian at the door. Moral fear, too, is often misunderstood. It is not panic. It is not superstition. It is not living in terror of punishment. It is wisdom that understands cause and effect. It sees that unwholesome actions lead to painful results. It knows that greed, hatred, and delusion do not end in freedom. It understands that if we plant bitter seed, we should not expect sweet fruit. This fear is wholesome because it prevents suffering before suffering has ripened. It is like the fear of placing one's hand in fire or stepping into deep water without knowing how to swim. It is not cowardice. It is intelligence together. Noble shame and moral fear make the mind careful in a beautiful way. Not tense, not rigid, not self-righteous, but awake. They help us pause, and in many moments, a pause is the difference between karma that burns and the pause. Before pressing send on a message written in anger, pause. Before repeating a rumor, pause. pause. Before taking what was not freely given, pause. Before indulging a desire that you already know will lead to regret, pause. Before turning away from someone whose suffering you can ease, pause. In that pause, ask the mind gently but honestly, where will this lead? If I follow this thought, will it lead to peace or regret? If I speak these words, will they bring kindness or harm? If I perform this action, will it bring freedom or bondage? Will I be glad to remember this later? Would I do this if aging, sickness, and death were vivid in my awareness? Would I do this if I truly remembered that I am the owner of my karma? These questions are simple, but they are powerful. They bring mindfulness back into the place where karma is being made. They interrupt the old momentum. They give wisdom a chance to speak, before craving takes command, before anger throws its spear, before delusion covers the eyes. Much of spiritual practice happens exactly here. Not only in temples, not only in meditation halls, not only during formal chanting or quiet sitting, but in the living stream of ordinary choices. When someone insults us and we choose not to return the poison. When we are tempted to deceive and we choose truth. When desire pulls strongly and we choose restraint. When indifference feels easy and we choose compassion. When pride wants victory and we choose humility. These are not small moments. These are the moments in which the path becomes real. Heedlessness says, this moment does not matter. Mindfulness says, this moment is the only place where freedom can begin. If we look deeply, every unwholesome action is a kind of forgetting. To harm is to forget that suffering is real. To lie is to forget the beauty of truth. To steal is to forget contentment and respect. To misuse sexuality is to forget trust, dignity, and consequence. To intoxicate the mind is to forget the value of clarity. To speak cruelly is to forget that the person before us also carries wounds, fears, and hopes. To live selfishly is to forget that life is shared. And every wholesome restraint is a kind of remembering. We remember impermanence, so we do not waste the present moment in hatred. We remember aging, so we do not worship youth. We remember sickness, so we do not become arrogant in health. We remember death, so we do not postpone goodness. We remember separation, so we love without clinging too blindly. We remember karma, so we take responsibility for the direction of our lives. The Buddha did not teach these reflections to make life gloomy. He taught them to make life honest. A heedless person may seem cheerful on the surface, but beneath that cheerfulness there is danger because the mind is not protected. A mindful person may reflect on aging, sickness, death, separation, and karma, yet become more tender, more grateful, more careful, more alive. Reflection does not steal joy. It purifies joy. It removes the madness from it. It teaches us to enjoy without attachment, to love without possession, to act without cruelty, to live without forgetting the truth. So when we notice heedlessness arising, we do not need to hate ourselves. We simply need to wake up. If the mind has been intoxicated with youth, remember aging. If it has been intoxicated with health, remember sickness. If it has been intoxicated with life, remember death. If it clings tightly to people and possessions, remember separation. If it acts as if choices have no consequence, remember karma. This remembering is already a turning. It is the beginning of protection. It is the lamp raised in a dark place. And if unwholesome karma begins with forgetfulness, then wholesome karma begins with careful attention. It begins when we respect the present moment enough to ask what kind of future we are planting. It begins when we understand that every thought we feed, every word we speak, every action we repeat is shaping the heart. It begins when we no longer treat morality as a rule imposed from outside, but as mercy toward ourselves and others, for no one can escape the results of intentional action. We may hide from people, we may hide from society, we may hide behind explanations, excuses, and appearances, but we cannot hide from the law of cause and effect. The seed does not forget what it is. When conditions gather, it will bear fruit. Knowing this, let us become more careful, not with fear that closes the heart, but with wisdom that opens it. Let us guard the mind before it becomes speech. Let us guard speech before it becomes harm. Let us guard action before it becomes a painful inheritance. Let us train ourselves to pause, to remember, to choose again. Because when heedlessness is abandoned, the heart becomes lighter. There is less to conceal, less to repair, less to fear. There is a quiet happiness in knowing, today, I did not add unnecessary suffering to the world. Today I restrained what was harmful. Today I planted something wholesome. This happiness may not be dramatic, but it is clean. It is the happiness of a mind that is beginning to become its own refuge. And once we see how unwholesome karma is formed through greed, hatred, and delusion, a deeper question naturally arises. If such actions are planted again and again, what kind of suffering may grow from them? What bitter fruits wait for the one who lives carelessly, without shame, without moral fear, without mindfulness of consequence? There is a kind of suffering that does not arrive all at once. It begins quietly, a word spoken with cruelty, a lie told to protect pride, a hand reaching for what does not belong to it, a decision made in anger, a pleasure taken at the cost of another's tears. At first, the mind may try to excuse it. It was only a small thing, everyone does this. No one will know. But karma does not depend on whether others see. Karma begins where intention begins. And when the intention is stained by greed, hatred, or delusion, the seed is already planted. The Buddha did not teach this to condemn us. He taught it because he saw the hidden movement of life with compassion. He saw that beings wander through joy and sorrow, rising and falling according to causes they themselves have made. He saw that no action disappears into emptiness. When the conditions are present, the seed gives its fruit. A wholesome seed brings a fruit that can be trusted. An unwholesome seed brings a bitter fruit, painful to taste, difficult to bear, and often much heavier than we imagined at the moment of planting. Sometimes the fruit of unwholesome karma ripens in this very life. We do something harmful, and even if the world does not punish us immediately, the heart begins to know. Deep inside there is uneasiness. A person who lies must remember the lie. A person who betrays must fear being discovered. A person who harms must build walls around the memory of harm. This is already suffering. The body may sit in a comfortable room, the face may smile in public, but inside there is tension, agitation, a trembling that cannot find rest. Guilt is one of the first fruits. Not all guilt is clear and honest. Sometimes it hides behind irritation. Sometimes it becomes defensiveness. Sometimes it turns into blame, because the mind does not want to look at itself. But beneath all that, there is a wound. The heart knows when it has moved away from goodness. It knows when it has stepped on trust. It knows when it has chosen selfishness over care. And when that knowing is ignored again and again, the pain does not vanish. It sinks deeper, becoming heaviness, shame, confusion, and sometimes even a hatred toward oneself. Fear is another fruit. When a person creates harm, fear follows like a shadow. Fear of being exposed, fear of losing reputation, fear of consequences, fear of meeting the person one has wronged, fear of the law, fear of the future. Even sleep may become restless, because the mind, unguarded in the night, brings back what the daylight tries to hide. A person may become suspicious of others, not because others are untrustworthy, but because the person knows the ways of deceit within their own heart. Having harmed, they begin to imagine harm everywhere. Having cheated, they fear being cheated. Having betrayed, they fear betrayal. Unwholesome action also breaks trust. And trust, once broken, is not easily restored. A harsh word can echo in a family for years. A betrayal can change the way someone loves. A dishonest act can destroy a relationship that took decades to build. The fruit of karma is not only experienced privately inside the one who acts. It spreads outward, touching parents, children, partners, friends, communities. One careless act can become a river of pain flowing through many lives. A child may grow up with fear because of an angry parent. A friend may close their heart because of one deep betrayal. A family may be divided because someone allowed greed to become stronger than love. This is why the Buddha taught us to reflect carefully. Evil karma is not evil because a divine authority declares it so. It is called unwholesome because it wounds life. It burns the one who receives it, and it burns the one who creates it. When we act with greed, hatred, and delusion, we are not simply breaking a rule. We are shaping our own mind into something more painful, more restless, more difficult to free. There are also consequences that appear in very visible ways. A person who steals may face punishment. A person who deceives may lose their work, their family, their name. A person who harms others may meet legal trouble, revenge, isolation, or disgrace. Society has its own ways of responding to unwholesome conduct. But even if society fails to respond, karma does not fail. The inner result is already unfolding. The mind becomes disturbed. The heart loses its natural softness. A person who repeatedly does wrong must slowly silence compassion in order to continue. And that silencing is a terrible loss. At first, the heart may still tremble before doing harm. It may still feel shame. It may still hesitate. That hesitation is precious. It is the remaining fragrance of goodness. It is moral sensitivity protecting us from falling further. But if we ignore that inner warning again and again, the heart becomes harder. What once felt terrible begins to feel normal. What once caused remorse becomes easy. We begin to laugh at what should make us careful. We begin to admire clever wrongdoing. We begin to call cruelty strength, and greed success, and indulgence freedom. This hardening of the heart is one of the most dangerous fruits of unwholesome karma, because it blinds us to the cliff beneath our feet. When mindfulness is lost, when shame of wrongdoing and fear of wrongdoing are abandoned, a person may create suffering without limit. The mind says, I am still young. I am strong. I have time. I can enjoy now and think later. But life does not wait for our wisdom to mature. Old age is moving toward us. Illness is moving toward us. And karma is moving with us. Closer than our own shadow. We may leave behind houses, money, status, praise, and even the body itself. But the results of our intentional actions do not become someone else's property. They follow the stream of consciousness as an inheritance that cannot be refused. The Buddha spoke of karma ripening in many ways. Some actions bear fruit here and now. Some bear fruit later in this life. Some bear fruit in future lives. Some wait for conditions, like seeds lying in dry earth until the rain comes. This is why we should never think that because no result has appeared yet, the action has disappeared. A seed beneath the ground is not dead simply because we cannot see it. When the soil, moisture, warmth, and season gather, it breaks open. In the same way, unwholesome karma may wait silently until the right conditions arise. Then it ripens as pain, loss, fear, illness, misfortune, or rebirth in a state of great suffering. The traditional teaching speaks clearly and soberly about unfortunate realms. It speaks of hell beings, hungry ghosts, and animals as destinations connected with powerful, unwholesome karma. These teachings are not meant to entertain the imagination or to create fear for the sake of fear. They are meant to wake us up. They remind us that the moral weight of life is deeper than what appears to our ordinary eyes. A human life is not an isolated moment floating without consequence. It is part of a vast continuity of causes and results. When hatred becomes extreme, when cruelty becomes repeated, when greed becomes shameless, when delusion becomes thick and dark, the mind may be drawn toward realms where suffering is intense and freedom is very difficult to find. The hell realms are described as states of terrible pain, where beings experience the burning results of violent and cruel actions. Whether we understand them as literal realms, as modes of existence beyond our present sight, or as deep teachings about the consequences of hatred. The moral message is unmistakable. A mind that delights in causing suffering creates the conditions for suffering to return with overwhelming force. Anger may feel powerful for a moment, but its fruit is fire. Cruelty may feel like victory, but its fruit is torment. When we injure life without remorse, we are not escaping pain. We are preparing a place for pain to meet us. The realm of hungry ghosts speaks to the tragedy of craving. These beings are often described as tormented by hunger and thirst, surrounded by what they desire, but unable to be satisfied. This image is painfully close to human life as well. Even now, we can see people who have much and still feel empty. They consume but are not nourished. They possess but are not content. They chase pleasure, praise, control, and still the heart cries for more. When greed rules the mind, satisfaction becomes impossible. The hungry ghost is not only a being in another realm, it is also a warning about what the heart becomes when craving is never understood and never restrained. The animal realm is associated with ignorance, fear, struggle, and vulnerability. Animals may live under constant threat, driven by instinct, hunted, used, burdened, or unable to understand the path to liberation. Rebirth in such a state is considered unfortunate, not because animal life has no beauty, but because the opportunity for moral reflection and spiritual practice is greatly limited. To be born human, with the capacity to understand suffering, to choose restraint, to cultivate wisdom, is extraordinarily rare. If we waste this chance in heedlessness, if we live only by appetite, aggression, and confusion, we move closer to the conditions we are meant to rise above. Yet the Buddha's warning about lower realms should never make us look down on any being. It should deepen compassion. If we truly understand karma, we do not become proud. We become careful. We see that all beings are heirs to their actions, and that we too have wandered through countless forms of suffering. We do not know what we have been. We do not know what others have endured. The sight of an animal, a suffering person, a tormented mind, should not awaken contempt. It should awaken tenderness and urgency. May I not create the causes of such suffering. May all beings be free from the causes of such suffering. This is the heart of the teaching. It is not a threat. It is a mirror. It asks us to look honestly at what we are planting. If we do not want bitter fruit, we must stop planting bitter seeds. If we fear suffering, we must abandon the causes of suffering. If we want peace, we must create the causes of peace. No one can purify our intentions for us. No one can walk inside our mind and remove greed, hatred, and delusion without our effort. Teachers can guide us. The Buddha can show the path. The Dhamma can illuminate the law of cause and effect. But each of us must choose again and again what kind of seed to place into the field of life. This personal responsibility may sound heavy, but in truth, it is also empowering. If suffering had no cause, we would be helpless. If our future were fixed, effort would be meaningless. But because suffering arises from causes, and because causes can be understood and abandoned, there is hope. Every moment of restraint matters. Every honest word matters. Every act of generosity matters. Every time we refuse to harm, we are changing the direction of our life. We are not merely avoiding punishment. We are protecting the heart. We are making the mind a safer place to live. Consider how different the mind feels after doing good. When we speak truthfully, there is nothing to remember, nothing to hide. When we act kindly, the heart becomes warm. When we restrain anger, even if the restraint is difficult, we feel a quiet strength afterward. When we apologize sincerely, a burden is lifted. When we give without expecting return, the tight fist of craving opens. These are also fruits of karma, gentle fruits, clean fruits, fruits that nourish the journey. The Buddha did not only warn us about the bitter, he also showed us the sweet. But to taste the sweet, we must stop in the roots of bitterness. So when we reflect, I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, supported by my karma. We are not reciting a cold doctrine. We are remembering the deepest intimacy of our own actions. What we do becomes the ground beneath us. What we repeat becomes our character. What we cultivate becomes our path. If we cultivate cruelty, cruelty becomes our companion. If we cultivate honesty, honesty becomes our refuge. If we cultivate greed, greed becomes our hunger. If we cultivate compassion, compassion becomes our home. And because death can come at any time, this reflection cannot wait until old age. It cannot wait until illness. It cannot wait until life is quiet and convenient. The young can die, the healthy can die, the busy can die, the successful can die. Death does not ask whether our plans are finished. It does not ask whether we have apologized, whether we have forgiven, whether we have stopped harming, whether we have begun to practice. It comes when the conditions for life are exhausted. And when it comes, what will we carry? Not our excuses, not our possessions, not the praise of others, only the moral force of what we have done, said, and intended. This is why the wise become urgent but not panicked, serious but not despairing. They see danger, and because they see danger, they step away from it. They see the bitter fruit, and because they see it, they stop planting the bitter seed. They do not need to hate themselves for past wrongs. Hatred only creates more darkness. Instead, they acknowledge, repent, learn, and change. They strengthen shame of wrongdoing and fear of wrongdoing, not as burdens, but as guardians. These two guardians stand at the doorway of the heart and say, "Do not go there. That road leads to suffering. If we have done harm, let us not waste time pretending we have not. Let us not add delusion to unwholesome action. Let us turn back. Let us repair what can be repaired. Let us ask forgiveness where appropriate. Let us make a firm determination not to repeat the same mistake. Let us create wholesome karma with body, speech, and mind. Even a dark room closed for 100 years becomes bright when a lamp is lit. In the same way, a life stained by past wrongs can begin to brighten through sincere effort, moral restraint, generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. The bitter fruit of unwholesome action is real. It may ripen as remorse in the heart, as brokenness in relationships, as fear in daily life, as punishment in society, as painful rebirth beyond this life, or as the long wandering of a mind trapped by its own defilements. But we are listening to this teaching while we still have breath. That means the path is still open. The hand can release the knife, the tongue can choose truth, the mind can abandon hatred, the heart can soften again. And this is where the Buddha's compassion shines most clearly. He does not show us danger and then leave us trembling in the dark. He shows us danger so that we will move towards safety. He reveals the suffering born of evil karma so that we will cherish goodness. He teaches us to fear the causes of suffering, not life itself. He teaches us to take responsibility, not to fall into despair. The bitter fruit is a warning, but it is also an invitation to wake up. Yet the Buddha's teaching never stops at warning. It always opens a path towards safety, goodness, and liberation. If unwholesome karma is like a dark seed planted in the field of the heart, then wholesome karma is the seed that carries light. It does not always look dramatic from the outside. Sometimes it is only a quiet decision made in a room where no one is watching. Sometimes it is the moment we hold back a harsh word, the moment we give what we could have kept, the moment we bow our pride and listen. Yet from such small movements, a whole life can be redirected. The Buddha did not teach wholesome karma as something reserved for monks in forests, or for saints far above ordinary sorrow. He taught it as the refuge available to everyone who still breathes, everyone who can choose, everyone who can turn the mind toward goodness even once. A poor person can create wholesome karma. A busy parent can create wholesome karma. A sick person lying in bed can create wholesome karma. A person who has made mistakes can create wholesome karma. The door is not closed simply because the past was imperfect. As long as intention can be purified, the path can begin again. Wholesome karma begins in the heart before it appears in speech or action. Its root is intention. When intention is touched by generosity, the hand opens. When intention is touched by loving kindness, the face softens. When intention is touched by compassion, we cannot bear to harm. When intention is touched by wisdom, we see that every action returns to the one who performs it, just as a shadow follows the body. And when intention is guarded by restraint, we do not follow every desire merely because it arises. We learn to pause. We learn to look. We learn to ask, if I do this, will it bring harm to myself or to others? Will it lead toward peace or toward regret? This is why wholesome karma is not only about what we do, but how we do it. A gift given with contempt is not the same as a gift given with tenderness. A truth spoken with cruelty is not the same as a truth spoken with care. A duty performed with bitterness is not the same as a duty performed with gratitude. The mind is the forerunner. The mind is the maker. Even a simple act becomes bright. When the mind is stained, even an impressive act may carry hidden darkness. In the daily life of ordinary people, the Buddha pointed to many ways of cultivating wholesome karma. In the sensual realm, where most of us live surrounded by sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, relationships, possessions, fears, and hopes, goodness can be practiced in very practical forms. It begins with generosity, the willingness to give. We give food. We give medicine. We give shelter. We give time. We give forgiveness. We give a listening ear to someone whose heart is breaking. We give respect to those who have carried burdens longer than we have. We give not because the world forces us, but because the heart becomes lighter when it is no longer locked inside itself. There is an old tale of two brothers who inherited equal shares of their father's land. The elder brother spent his years gathering, hoarding, and comparing his harvest to his neighbor's, certain that security lay in what he could lock behind a door. The younger brother, with the same soil and the same rain, gave away a portion of every harvest to whoever came hungry to his gate. Villagers said he was foolish, that he would end his life with empty hands. Decades passed. When drought came, the elder brother found his stored grain rotted by damp and guarded by suspicion, his neighbors unwilling to help a man who had never helped them. The younger brother found his table still full, not because he had hidden more, but because the people he had fed for years now carried baskets to his door without being asked. Neither brother could explain it fully as luck or as accident. It was simply the shape that a life takes when the heart has been trained, year after year, toward either grasping or giving. Generosity is a training in freedom. Each time we give wisely, we loosen the grip of greed. We discover that not everything we possess must be defended as mine. A bowl of rice offered to someone hungry, a robe offered to a monk, a coin placed quietly in the hand of someone in need, a meal prepared for aging parents, a kindness extended to a stranger, all of these become seeds. They may appear small, but no wholesome intention is wasted. The universe of karma is more delicate than the eyes can see. Then there is morality, the beautiful protection of harmlessness. To keep precepts is not to imprison oneself, it is to stop burning oneself. When we refrain from killing, we protect life and we protect the tenderness of our own heart. When we refrain from stealing, we protect trust. When we refrain from sexual misconduct, we protect families, dignity, and the deep places where people are vulnerable. When we refrain from false speech, we protect truth, which is one of the foundations of peace. When we refrain from intoxicants that cloud the mind, we protect mindfulness, the very lamp by which we find the way. Morality may seem simple, but in times of temptation it becomes a great strength. It is easy to speak gently when no one insults us. It is easy to be honest when honesty costs nothing. It is easy to be peaceful when everything goes according to our wishes. But when anger rises, when gain is within reach, when desire whispers, when fear presses against the chest, then the precepts become a bridge over danger. They remind us of who we want to become. They keep us from falling into actions that may take only a moment to perform, but years to regret. Respect is also wholesome karma. In a world that praises self-importance, respect is a quiet medicine. To bow before the Buddha is to bow before awakening. To honor the Dhamma is to honor truth. To support the Sangha is to honor those who preserve the path. To respect parents, elders, teachers, and those who live with virtue, to remember that we did not arrive here alone. Someone fed us. Someone taught us. Someone endured discomfort so that we might stand today. A respectful heart is not a weak heart. It is a heart that sees value beyond its own pride. Service is another field of merit. Not everyone can give great wealth, but everyone can serve in some way. We can sweep a floor. We can carry water. We can care for the sick. We can help our parents when their bodies become fragile. We can prepare a seat for a teacher, guide someone across a difficult road, support a community gathering, repair what is broken, or simply be present where help is needed. Service humbles the ego because it moves the question from "what can I get?" to "what can I relieve?" In that movement, the heart becomes wide. Sharing merit is a beautiful expression of wholesome intention. After doing good, we do not cling to it with conceit, thinking, "This is mine alone." Instead, we dedicate the goodness. We remember departed relatives. We think of parents, teachers, friends, enemies, beings seen and unseen. We let the heart say, "May this merit be shared. May others rejoice. May suffering be eased." Such sharing does not reduce our goodness. A flame loses nothing by lighting another flame. In fact, the wish that others benefit makes the heart even more radiant. And when others do good, we rejoice. This too is wholesome karma, though people often overlook it. Sometimes the success, virtue, or generosity of another person stirs envy in us. The mind compares, contracts, and suffers. But the Buddha gave us another way. When someone gives, we can be glad. When someone keeps virtue, we can be glad. When someone meditates, learns, serves, or turns away from wrongdoing, we can be glad. Rejoicing in others' merit frees us from the poison of jealousy. It allows the goodness of others to become nourishment for our own heart. Listening to the Dhamma is also a powerful, wholesome action. There are moments when one true sentence can change the direction of a life. We may hear that all conditioned things are impermanent, and suddenly the quarrel we were holding so tightly begins to loosen. We may hear that hatred never ends by hatred, and our revenge loses its sweetness. We may hear that death is certain, but the time of death is uncertain, and we stop postponing goodness. To listen to the Dhamma with respect is to place the mind near a clear stream. The dust of confusion begins to settle, but listening alone is not enough. We must straighten our views. Wrong view is like walking with a distorted map. Even strong effort may lead us deeper into danger. Right view begins with understanding that actions have consequences, that wholesome deeds bring wholesome results, that unwholesome deeds bring suffering, that this life is not merely a playground for desire, and that liberation is possible. To straighten one's view is to stop blaming fate for everything, stop excusing the unwholesome, stop pretending that intention does not matter. It is to stand before life with honesty and say, "My actions are my true inheritance." In ordinary daily life, these teachings are not far away. They are waiting in the kitchen, in the workplace, in traffic, in the marketplace, beside the bed of a sick parent, in the silence after someone has hurt us. Offering food with a pure heart is wholesome karma. Helping parents with patience is wholesome karma. Speaking truth when a lie would be easier is wholesome karma. Refusing to gossip, even when gossip would make us feel important, is wholesome karma. Forgiving someone, not because the harm was small, but because hatred is too heavy to carry, is wholesome karma. Keeping the precepts on a quiet day is wholesome karma. Keeping them on a difficult day is even more precious. Sitting in meditation, even for a few minutes, and returning the wandering mind to the breath is wholesome karma. Supporting a monastery, a teacher, a community of practice, or a friend who is trying to live rightly is wholesome karma. Protecting life, even the life of a small creature that cannot thank us, is wholesome karma. Every act of non-harming strengthens the heart's capacity for compassion, and we should not despise small goodness. A person may think, what difference does one kind word make? What difference does one offering make? What difference does one moment of mindfulness make? But a jar is filled drop by drop. A forest grows seed by seed. A character is formed choice by choice. The mind that becomes noble does not become noble in one sudden leap only. It is softened, corrected, purified, again and again. If we wait for a perfect occasion to do good, we may waste the very day in which goodness was possible. According to one's capacity, there are also higher wholesome states cultivated through meditation. When the mind is gathered, secluded from sensual desire and unwholesome qualities, it can enter deep states of calm connected with the fine material attainments. These are not ordinary pleasures. They are born of collectedness, purity, and sustained development. The mind becomes steady, unified, bright, less scattered by the noise of the senses. For those with the ability and the conditions, such meditative absorption becomes a powerful, wholesome karma, lifting the mind beyond coarse attachment, showing that happiness does not depend only on possessions, praise, or bodily delight. Beyond even these are the immaterial attainments, where perception becomes more refined, more subtle, less bound to form. These states may sound distant to many of us, like mountains seen from far away, but they should not discourage us. The path is not meant to make the ordinary person feel small. It is meant to show the vast range of the human mind when purified and trained. Even if we are not yet capable of such attainments, we can still respect them, aspire toward clarity, and practice the foundations that lead in that direction: virtue, mindfulness, contentment, patience, and wise effort. At the highest level, wholesome consciousness becomes supramundane. It is no longer merely the goodness that brings pleasant results within the cycle of birth and death. It becomes the noble path consciousness that cuts through defilement. The path of stream entry breaks the first great chains and assures that one will not fall into the lowest realms. The path of once returning weakens greed and hatred further. The path of non-returning cuts sensual desire and ill will at the root. The path of arahantship brings the complete ending of the taints, the full liberation of the heart. This is the supreme purification, the highest safety, the ending of the long wandering. Yet even this highest liberation begins with the sincerity of this present moment. No one reaches the noble path by despising ordinary goodness. Generosity prepares the heart. Morality protects it. Respect softens it. Service humbles it. Rejoicing brightens it. Listening to the Dhamma guides it. Right view straightens it. Meditation steadies it. Wisdom frees it. Step by step the field is cultivated. Seed by seed the harvest changes. So when we reflect, I am the owner of my karma, heir to my karma, born of my karma, related to my karma, supported by my karma, we should not hear only a warning, we should also hear a promise. If karma is truly ours, then goodness is also truly possible. If we inherit what we do, then today we can begin preparing a better inheritance. If the future is shaped by causes, then this breath, this thought, this word, this action matters deeply. We do not need to wait until old age to become kind. We do not need to wait until sickness to become mindful. We do not need to wait until death is near to become sincere. The time for wholesome karma is always now, because now is the only place where intention can be purified. Now is where the hand can give. Now is where the mouth can speak truth. Now is where the mind can let go of resentment. Now is where the heart can remember the Dharma. But wholesome karma is not created in grand moments alone. It is shaped by how we meet the uncertainty of each day. And when we look honestly at that uncertainty, we begin to understand why the Buddha invited his disciples to reflect again and again, by day and by night, not as a punishment for the mind, not to make the heart heavy, but to wake us from the dangerous sleep of carelessness, because ordinary people, those who have not yet attained deep meditative knowledge or noble realization, live surrounded by 5 great unknowns. We do not know when death will come. We do not know where death will come. We do not know by what cause death will come. We do not know which karma will ripen at the final moment. And we do not know into which realm we will be reborn after this life ends. These 5 unknowns stand quietly beside every human life. They do not shout. They do not announce themselves each morning. They simply remain there, patient and certain, while we make plans as if everything were under our control. We say, next year I will change. We say, when I have more time, I will practice. We say, when the children are grown, when the work is finished, when my body is weaker, then I will turn inward. But death does not wait for our schedule. Death does not ask whether our duties are complete, whether our house is in order, whether our heart has forgiven, whether our mind has made peace. The first unknown is the time of death. We may imagine death as something far away, something that belongs to the end of a long road, and perhaps for some, it does come after many decades, when the hair has turned white, the body has grown thin, and the eyes have seen many seasons pass. But for others, death comes while youth is still bright on the face. It comes before ambitions have been fulfilled, before apologies have been spoken, before love has been expressed. It comes while the body still feels strong, while the person still believes, I have many years. A person may wake in the morning with plans for the whole day and not live to see the evening. Someone may sit down to eat a simple meal and never rise again. Someone may fall asleep after an ordinary night, never knowing that the last breath has already drawn near. Someone may step onto a road, enter a vehicle, begin a journey, open a door, answer a phone, and in one moment the world changes. The time of death may arrive in a season of illness, but it may also arrive in a season of celebration. It may come after warning signs, or it may come without any sign at all. This is not said to frighten the heart, but to cleanse it of arrogance, because much of our carelessness comes from the feeling that tomorrow belongs to us. We delay kindness because we assume there will be another chance. We continue resentment because we assume there will be time to reconcile. We indulge harmful habits because we assume there will be time to correct them later. But when we truly understand that the hour of death is unknown, our relationship with this very breath changes. We become less willing to waste our life in anger. We become less willing to postpone goodness. We begin to see that the only safe time to purify intention is now. The second unknown is the place of death. We do not know where this body will finally be laid down. Some people die at home, surrounded by familiar walls and the faces of loved ones. Some die in hospitals, among machines, medicines, and the quiet footsteps of strangers. Some die on the road, in the middle of a journey, far from the place they thought would be their final shelter. Some die at work, in the very place where they spent their strength earning a living. Some die in a foreign land, under a sky they did not know as a child. Some die in the water, in the air, in a crowd, in silence, in a place no one expected. We often carry an image of how our final days might be. Perhaps we imagine a bed, a family gathered near, time for final words, time to ask forgiveness, time to bless those who remain. But life does not promise such an ending. The place of death is not chosen by desire. It is conditioned by karma, by circumstance, by the fragile nature of the body, by events that unfold beyond our command. And because we do not know where the final breath will leave us, every place becomes a place for practice. The room where we speak to our family is a place for practice. The road where we meet strangers is a place for practice. The workplace where impatience arises is a place for practice. The market, the hospital, the bus stop, the kitchen, the quiet corner before sleep, all become fields where karma is planted. If death may come anywhere, then mindfulness must not be reserved for the meditation hall alone. If the last breath may arise in any place, then compassion must travel with us. Truthfulness must travel with us. Restraint must travel with us. The recollection of the Dhamma must travel with us, like a lamp carried through uncertain night. The third unknown is the cause of death. Some die because of sickness known and named. The body weakens slowly, organ by organ, breath by breath, until life can no longer remain. Some die because of sudden illness, a hidden weakness in the body that no one saw. Some die because of accidents, disasters, violence, fire, flood, falling, collision, or the turning of events in an instant. Some die from causes that are clear to others, and some from causes that remain hidden even after the body is gone. The truth is that this body is more delicate than pride wants to admit. We decorate it, feed it, strengthen it, admire it, and depend on it. Yet it is held together by conditions that must constantly be maintained. A little too much heat, a little too little breath, a small clot, a broken vessel, a failing organ, a moment of impact, and the life we called mine begins to slip away. The body does not obey our attachment. It follows nature. It is born, it ages, it becomes ill, it dies. Reflecting on the unknown cause of death does not mean neglecting health. It does not mean becoming passive or gloomy. We should care for the body with wisdom, because it is the vessel through which we can practice generosity, virtue, meditation, and understanding. But caring for the body is not the same as believing the body can be made secure forever. The wise person uses health without being intoxicated by health. The wise person receives strength without being blinded by strength. The wise person knows that because the cause of death is uncertain, there is no room for heedlessness, no room for cruelty, no room for the lazy thought that says, "I will practice later." The fourth unknown reaches deeper still. At the time of death, we do not know which karma will ripen and give its result. Throughout many days, many years, and according to the teaching, throughout countless lives, we have acted through body, speech, and mind. We have planted seeds. Some were wholesome, acts of giving, moments of patience, words of truth, reverence, compassion, restraint, meditation, wisdom, faith. Some were unwholesome, anger, greed, deceit, harsh speech, cruelty, intoxication, envy, wrong view, and all the ways the mind, when darkened, harms itself and others. These actions do not vanish simply because we forget them. They become tendencies, they leave impressions. They shape the stream of consciousness. And near death, when the body is weak and the ordinary protections of daily life begin to fall away, certain memories, habits, or karmic signs may arise with great force. A generous mind may remember giving. A faithful mind may remember the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. A remorseful mind may be shaken by past harm. A mind trained in anger may turn again toward anger. A mind trained in craving may cling desperately to what it cannot keep. This is why habit is so important. The final state of mind does not appear from nowhere. It is often nourished by what we have practiced again and again. If we practice resentment every day, resentment becomes familiar. If we practice greed every day, greed becomes familiar. If we practice mindfulness, generosity, loving kindness, and letting go, these too become familiar. At the moment when everything else is slipping minded away, the mind tends to reach for what it knows, but still, for ordinary beings, we cannot say with certainty which karma will come forward. A person with much goodness may also carry unwholesome actions from the past. A person who has done harm may also have moments of sincere repentance and virtue. The karmic field is vast and complex. Only a Buddha fully understands the precise working of karma in all its depth. For us, the uncertainty should not lead to despair. It should lead to carefulness. Since we do not know which seed will ripen, let us plant more wholesome seeds. Since we do not know what memory may arise, let us create memories of goodness. Since we do not know what the mind will cling to, let us train it now to incline toward refuge, kindness, and wisdom. This is why daily practice matters. A single moment of goodness is never wasted, but a life repeatedly turned toward goodness becomes a powerful support. Each time we refrain from harming, we weaken the pathway of harm. Each time we speak truth instead of lying, we strengthen the pathway of clarity. Each time we give instead of grasping, we loosen the knot of greed. Each time we forgive instead of feeding anger, we make the heart lighter. These are not small things. They are preparations for the unknown hour. They are provisions for the journey no one else can take for us. The fifth unknown is the realm of rebirth. After death, for those not yet liberated, the stream of becoming continues according to karma. This is a solemn teaching. It tells us that death is not simply an escape from responsibility. It is not a door through which all consequences disappear. The mind, shaped by its actions, moves on. If wholesome karma ripens, there may be a fortunate rebirth, a realm where happiness, clarity, and opportunity are greater. If unwholesome karma ripens, there may be rebirth in painful states, in realms of deprivation, fear, confusion, or intense suffering. Ordinary people cannot see this clearly for themselves. We may have beliefs, hopes, doubts, or inherited ideas, but without direct realization, we do not know where we will go, and because we do not know, we should not be careless. A traveler who does not know the road prepares carefully. A person crossing a dark wilderness carries a lamp. A patient facing a serious illness seeks the right medicine. In the same way, one who understands the uncertainty of rebirth takes refuge in wholesome action. Virtue becomes a protection. Generosity becomes a friend. Meditation becomes a lamp. Wisdom becomes the path. To contemplate rebirth in this way is not to become obsessed with the future. It is to recognize the moral weight of the present. The next life, whatever it may be, is not disconnected from this moment. It is being shaped here, in the intentions we allow, in the choices we repeat, in the truths we honor or betray. When we choose compassion now, we are not only making this life more beautiful, we are inclining the mind toward brightness. When we choose cruelty now, we are not only wounding this moment, we are darkening the path ahead. And so these five unknowns gather into one urgent lesson. We do not know when, we do not know where, we do not know how, we do not know which karma will ripen, we do not know where we will be reborn. Yet in the middle of all this uncertainty, one thing remains available to us: the choice to cultivate goodness now. This is the tenderness of the Buddha's teaching. It does not leave us helpless before death. It does not say, everything is uncertain, therefore nothing matters. It says the opposite. Because everything is uncertain, everything matters. Because the last moment is unknown, this present moment is precious. Because the place of death is unknown, every place should be honored with mindfulness. Because the cause of death is unknown, we should not waste strength in harmful living. Because the ripening of karma is uncertain, we should purify our conduct while we can. Because rebirth is uncertain, we should make the Dhamma our refuge before the storm arrives. A wise person reflects on death not to hate life, but to love life rightly. Not with clinging, not with intoxication, not with the blind hunger that says, "This must remain mine," but with gratitude and care. When we remember that our loved ones are also subject to death, we speak more gently. When we remember that our body is uncertain, we stop using it as an instrument of harm. When we remember that possessions must be left behind, we become less enslaved by them. When we remember that karma follows us, we become more honest in secret places, where no human eye is watching. The five unknowns are like 5 bells ringing in the distance. At first, their sound may disturb us, but if we listen deeply, they do not call us into panic, they call us into wakefulness. They tell us, do not drift. They tell us, do not be intoxicated by youth, health and life. They tell us, do not wait until the final breath to become sincere. They tell us, Make peace where peace can be made. Give while the hand can still open. Practice while the mind can still be trained. Love without possession. Work without cruelty. Live without forgetting the law of karma. Faced with such uncertainty, the wise person does not collapse into fear. The wise person begins to live deliberately. To live deliberately is not to become tense or heavy. It is not to walk through the world with a dark face, thinking only of loss. It is to wake up inside the life we already have. It is to stop treating each day as if it were only a small bridge to tomorrow, and begin to understand that this very day is also our life. This morning, this meal, this conversation, this chance to be patient, this chance to refrain from harm, this chance to plant a wholesome seed, this is where the path is walked. The Buddha's reflections are not meant to make the heart dry. They are not a ritual of sadness. They are a training in clear seeing. In the morning, before the noise of the day has fully entered the mind, we may sit quietly and remember, I am subject to aging, I am subject to illness, I am subject to death. I must be separated from all that is dear and pleasing to me. I am the owner of my karma. Whatever I do for good or for harm, that I shall inherit. These words are simple, but if we let them sink below the surface, they begin to rearrange our priorities. They help us distinguish what is urgent from what is truly important. They remind us that the day ahead is not just a place to chase, desire, defend pride, or repeat old habits. It is a field where seeds are being planted. At night before sleep, we may return to the same reflections with gentleness, not as a judge whipping the mind, but as a wise friend asking, how did you live today? Did I speak in a way that brought peace? Or did I wound someone because my ego wanted to win? Did I earn and spend with honesty? Or did I allow greed to guide my hands? Did I remember the body as fragile? Or did I use it carelessly as if it were guaranteed to obey me forever? Did I love the people near me with gratitude, or did I treat them as if they would always be there? Did I create causes for future ease, or did I create causes for regret? Such reflection is not self-hatred. It is purification. It is how the heart learns to turn back before it is too late. When mindfulness enters ordinary life, even small decisions become part of practice. Eating, for example, is no longer only a matter of taste and craving. We begin to ask whether we are feeding the body or feeding restlessness. We learn moderation, not because food is an enemy, but because intoxication with pleasure easily dulls awareness. We eat with gratitude for the many lives and labors that brought the meal before us. We stop making the stomach a battlefield of excess. We discover that restraint can be kind, and that simplicity can carry a quiet joy. Spending money also changes under the light of reflection. When we remember that all possessions must one day be left behind, we become less possessed by what we possess. We still care for our needs. We still provide for family. We still enjoy what is wholesome and appropriate. But we are less likely to sacrifice integrity for luxury, less likely to compare ourselves endlessly with others, less likely to mistake accumulation for safety. Wealth, when held wisely, becomes a tool for goodness. It can support parents and elders. It can educate children. It can relieve suffering. It can sustain practice. But when held with delusion, it becomes a chain around the heart. Reflection helps us know the difference. Speech becomes more careful too. So much suffering in this world begins with words thrown carelessly into another person's heart. A sentence spoken in anger may last longer than the anger itself. A sharp remark may echo in someone's memory for years. When we remember death, we do not want our last conversation with someone to be filled with cruelty. We do not want to leave behind a trail of unnecessary wounds. So we learn to pause. We ask whether the words are true, whether they are beneficial, whether this is the right time, whether they are spoken with a mind of kindness. We may still need to speak firmly. We may still need to correct, refuse, or protect, but firmness does not have to become hatred. Truth does not have to become a weapon. Work too becomes part of the path. Many people think spiritual practice exists only in the temple on the cushion or in moments of chanting. But karma is made in offices, markets, kitchens, factories, hospitals, farms and homes. It is made in contracts, promises, payments, decisions and hidden intentions. To live deliberately means we do not divide life into sacred and ordinary so easily. Honest work is practice. Refusing to cheat is practice. Not exploiting the weak is practice. Being diligent when no one praises us is practice. Treating colleagues with fairness is practice. Earning a living without harming others is a powerful protection for the mind. A person may speak beautiful words about Dharma, but if daily livelihood is soaked in deception, the heart cannot be at peace, and love becomes warmer when it is touched by the recollection of impermanence. We do not love less because we know separation will come. We love more wisely. We cling less tightly, but we appreciate more deeply. We begin to notice the face of a parent while they are still here. We listen to the small stories of an elder before those stories disappear with them. We look at our children not as possessions to control, but as beings traveling according to their own karma, needing guidance, patience, protection, and example. We stop assuming that the people we love will understand our love if we never show it. We stop promising tenderness. There is a strange foolishness in the human mind. We delay goodness as if we have signed a contract with time. We think, later I will apologize. Later I will visit my parents. Later I will practice generosity. Later I will be more patient. Later I will forgive. Later I will live with integrity. But later is not promised. The body may be strong today and helpless tomorrow. A familiar voice may become only a memory. A door we intended to enter may close before we arrive. Therefore, wise reflection urges us gently but firmly, repair what can be repaired now. If there is someone we have harmed, and the conditions allow, we should apologize while speech is still possible. Not with pride hidden inside the apology, not with excuses piled like stones around the heart, but with sincerity. I caused pain, I am sorry. Such words may be difficult, but they can free both sides from a burden. If there is someone we need to forgive, we should not wait until bitterness has carved itself too deeply into the mind. Forgiveness does not mean approving of harm. It does not mean returning to danger. It means we refuse to keep drinking poison in the hope that another person will suffer. It means we lay down the burning coal we have been carrying. If our parents are still alive, or those who raised and protected us, reflection asks us not to be careless with that blessing. Even imperfect parents, even complicated families, remind us of the fragile web of conditions that allowed this life to arise. Where there is a possibility to support. Where there is a possibility to speak kindly. Where distance is necessary, let it be distance without hatred. To care for elders is not merely a social duty. It is a field of merit. It softens the self-centered mind. It teaches gratitude. It reminds us that one day, if we live long enough, we too will need patience from others. If there are children in our care, reflection asks us to guide them gently. Children learn not only from what we tell them, but from what they see us do when we are tired, disappointed, angry, or afraid. If they see us lie, they learn lying. If they see us insult others, they learn contempt. If they see us apologize, they learn humility. If they see us give, they learn generosity. If they see us restrain anger, they learn strength. To raise a child is not only to prepare them for school, work, and survival. It is to help them understand cause and effect in the heart. It is to show them that happiness built on harm cannot last, and that goodness is never wasted. Even rest becomes different when we live deliberately. Some people are restless even when lying down, because the mind is filled with unfinished agitation. Others feel guilty whenever they rest, as if their worth depends only on constant doing. But mindfulness teaches balance. This body is impermanent, and because it is impermanent, it needs care, rest. taken with wisdom is not laziness. It is respect for the conditions that support wholesome action. We rest so that we can continue to practice, serve, work honestly, and love without exhaustion turning into resentment. But we also examine whether our rest is truly rest, or whether it is escape, indulgence, and forgetfulness. Clear seeing brings balance to both effort and ease. The remembrance of death, when misunderstood, seems cold, but when understood rightly, it makes life warmer. It removes so many meaningless quarrels. How many arguments would lose their power if we remembered that both people in the room are moving toward death? How many proud silences would break open if we understood that tomorrow may not give us another chance? How many jealousies would fade if we saw that no one can carry status, beauty, applause, or possessions beyond the final breath? Death does not make love meaningless. It makes unkindness foolish. It makes gratitude urgent. It makes sincerity beautiful. When we remember death, listening becomes deeper. We are less eager to interrupt. We are less obsessed with proving ourselves right. We can sit with another person's pain without immediately turning it into our own story. We can notice the trembling behind someone's anger, the loneliness behind someone's pride, the fear behind someone's harshness. This does not mean we become naive. Wisdom still sees clearly, but compassion has more room to breathe. We begin to understand that everyone is aging, everyone is vulnerable to illness, everyone is moving towards separation, everyone is driven by karma and searching, in one way or another, for relief from suffering. This remembrance also gives courage. There are moments when choosing what is right feels costly. We may lose approval, we may lose profit, we may lose comfort, but if we remember that karma is our true inheritance, then we understand that the cost of wrongdoing is far greater. Better to lose a small advantage than to plant a seed of suffering. Better to be misunderstood for a time than to betray conscience. Better to walk a simple path with a clean heart than to sit on a mountain of gain while fear grows within. The world may not always reward goodness quickly, but karma does not forget. Each day, then, we can carry one simple question like a lamp inside the chest. If this were my last evening, would I be at peace with the seeds I planted today? Not, did I finish every task? Not, did everyone praise me? Not, did I get everything I wanted? But did I plant seeds I would not be afraid to meet again? Did I refrain from the harm I was tempted to do? Did I nourish even one wholesome intention? Did I leave behind a little more kindness than I found? Did I remember even briefly that this life is uncertain and precious? If the answer is no, we do not fall into despair, we begin again. That is the mercy of practice. As long as breath remains, there is still a chance to turn the mind. There is still a chance to abandon an unwholesome habit, to ask forgiveness, to offer help, to speak truth, to sit quietly, to cultivate loving kindness, to restrain the hand from harm. We cannot rewrite yesterday, but we can stop carrying yesterday's ignorance into today. We cannot command tomorrow, but we can prepare for it by purifying the present. Living deliberately asks us to abandon the world. It asks us to stop being intoxicated by it. We can still walk among people, fulfill responsibilities, build, create, care, laugh, and share meals. But inwardly we remember, youth fades, health changes, life ends, the deer must be parted from, karma remains. These reflections are like 5 guardians at the gate of the heart. They prevent carelessness from entering too easily. They ask desire to slow down. They ask anger to look again. They ask pride to bow its head. They ask fear to become wisdom. And slowly, with repetition, the practice becomes less like words we recite, and more like eyes with which we see. We begin to feel the preciousness of ordinary mornings. We become more careful with the people beside us. We waste less time feeding resentments that bring no freedom. We discover that discipline is not punishment, but protection. We discover that generosity is not loss, but release. We discover that morality is not a burden placed upon life, but but the very ground on which a peaceful life can stand. When these reflections mature, they do more than change behavior. They change the very atmosphere of the heart. When the atmosphere of the heart changes, the world does not necessarily become softer. The body still ages, illness still comes, death still waits in the unseen distance. People we love still change, still leave, still pass beyond our reach. The results of our actions still follow us quietly, faithfully, like a shadow that never loses its owner. But something within us is no longer the same. What once terrified us begins to teach us. What once felt like a threat becomes a mirror. What once made us want to run away becomes the very doorway through which wisdom enters. At first, these 5 reflections can feel heavy. To contemplate aging is not pleasant to a mind intoxicated with youth. To contemplate sickness is not easy for a body enjoying strength. To contemplate death can feel almost unbearable when life seems full of plans, hopes, and unfinished dreams. To contemplate separation can stir a tenderness so deep that the heart trembles. And to contemplate karma, to truly understand that our intentions and actions shape our future suffering or peace, can awaken a serious kind of fear. But the Buddha did not offer these reflections to crush the heart. He offered them to free it. There is a fear that makes us smaller, and there is a fear that makes us wise. The first kind of fear runs blindly. It hides from truth, distracts itself, clings harder, speaks harshly, grasps for pleasure, and pretends that everything will remain. The second kind of fear bows before truth. It says, "Since this life is fragile, let me not waste it. Since this body is uncertain, let me use it well. Since those I love cannot be kept forever, let me love them without possession. Since my actions bear fruit, let me be careful with every thought, every word, every deed." In this way, reflection becomes medicine. Not bitter medicine that leaves us cold, but deep medicine that awakens the heart from intoxication. The heedless person lives as though the laws of life are meant for others. Aging is for someone else. Illness is for someone else. Loss is for someone else. Consequence is for someone else. So they move through the days carelessly, using youth as a reason for indulgence, using health as a reason for arrogance, using life as a reason for delay. They say, "Not yet, I will practice later. I will forgive later. I will give later. I will become sincere later." But life does not promise later. Life gives only this breath, this step, this moment, this chance. Then when truth arrives, the heedless heart is shattered. When the body weakens, it feels betrayed. When illness comes, it feels punished. When death approaches, it panics. When loved ones depart, it drowns in grief. When painful results ripen from unwholesome actions, it asks, "Why is this happening to me?" Yet, all along the teachings were present, the signs were everywhere. The body was always changing. The world was always uncertain. Karma was always working. The wise person does not avoid these truths. The wise person befriends them. To befriend aging does not mean to despise youth. It means to enjoy youth without being drunk on it. It means to know that energy, beauty, quickness, and strength are temporary gifts, not possessions. When we understand this, youth becomes a tool for goodness instead of a playground for heedlessness. We use our energy to learn, to serve, to train the mind, to restrain harmful impulses, to build noble habits before the body becomes too tired to support them easily. We do not need to hate the freshness of youth. We simply refuse to be fooled by it. To befriend illness does not mean to reject health. It means to receive health with gratitude and humility. When the body is strong, we do not use it merely to chase pleasure, compete, dominate, or feed vanity. We use it to bow, to walk the path, to help another person carry a burden, to sit in meditation, to speak kindly, to work honestly, to care for parents, children, friends, strangers, and all beings within our reach. Health is precious because it is unstable. Knowing this, we become less arrogant. We stop looking down on the sick, the weak, the old, and the dependent. we realize that their condition is not separate from us. It is a reminder of what belongs to all bodies. To befriend death does not mean to become gloomy, it means to become awake. Death is not waiting only at the end of old age. It does not ask whether a person is young or old, rich or poor, healthy or sick, famous or unknown. It can come by illness, accident, disaster, or a cause no one expected. The time is uncertain, the place is uncertain, the manner is uncertain. For the ordinary person who has not yet attained deep realization, even what karma will arise at the final moment is uncertain, and the next birth is unseen. But the fact of death itself is certain. This certainty, when understood rightly, does not destroy joy. It purifies joy. It removes laziness from the heart. It tells us, do not postpone what is wholesome. Do not wait to abandon what is harmful. Do not leave love unspoken, forgiveness ungiven, generosity unoffered, and practice unattended. To befriend separation does not mean to love less. It means to love more wisely. The people we cherish are not objects we can own. They are living beings moving according to their own karma, their own conditions, their own impermanence. Even while we sit beside them, change is already happening. Even while we hold their hand, time is flowing. If we cling blindly, love becomes fear. If we possess, love becomes anxiety. If we demand permanence from what is impermanent, love becomes suffering. But when we understand separation, love becomes tender. We become more patient. We listen more deeply. We stop wasting precious days on pride and coldness. We hold others with kindness, not chains. We learn to say, I care for you, but I cannot keep you forever. Therefore, while we are together, may I bring you peace, not pain. And to befriend karma does not mean to live under superstition or helplessness. It means to take responsibility for the field of intention. Karma reminds us that we are not powerless. We may not control aging, sickness, death, or separation, but we can train the mind that meets them. We can choose not to kill, not to steal, not to misuse desire, not to lie, not to intoxicate ourselves into heedlessness. We can choose generosity instead of greed, compassion instead of cruelty, truthfulness instead of deception, mindfulness instead of carelessness. We can cultivate wholesome actions of body, speech, and mind. We can develop virtue, concentration, and wisdom. We can plant seeds that lead toward peace in this life and beyond. This is why contemplation is not despair. Despair says, everything passes, so nothing matters. Wisdom says, everything passes, so everything matters deeply. Every word matters, because it may be the last word someone hears from us. Every act of kindness matters, because pain is already heavy in the world. Every moment of restraint matters because anger can create wounds that last far beyond the moment itself. Every breath of mindfulness matters because liberation is not found in some distant fantasy. It begins exactly where ignorance is seen and released. When we reflect again and again, certain qualities begin to grow naturally. Before aging, humility arises. We stop worshipping appearances. We stop measuring worth by skin, hair, strength, and speed. We see the old not as burdens, but as mirrors of truth. As travelers walking a little ahead of us, their wrinkles become teachings. Their slow steps become teachings. Their dependence becomes a teaching in compassion. Before illness, compassion arises. We understand how fragile comfort is. A single pain can change a whole day. A single diagnosis can change a whole life. Knowing this, we become gentler with others. We do not assume we know their suffering. We do not mock weakness. We do not turn away from those who need care. And when our own pain comes, we remember that pain is part of embodied life, not a personal failure. Before death, urgency arises. Not panic, but noble urgency, the kind that wakes before the sun and remembers, this day is not guaranteed, the kind that chooses practice over endless distraction, the kind that refuses to let resentment become a home, the kind that understands that a human life is rare, precious, and easily lost. Before separation, tenderness arises. We become less harsh with those we love. We let small irritations dissolve more quickly. We learn that being right is not always more important than being kind. We begin to cherish ordinary moments, a shared meal, a familiar voice, the sound of someone moving in the next room, the warmth of a hand, the simple blessing of still being together before karma. Responsibility arises. We no longer blame everything outside ourselves. We look carefully at intention. We ask, what am I planting now? What kind of future am I preparing for this mind? If this action ripens, will it bring peace or suffering? This question becomes a lamp. It shines before we speak. It shines before we act. It shines before we follow desire into darkness. And so the path becomes very practical, not abstract, not distant, not reserved for temples or scriptures alone. The path is here when someone insults us, and we choose not to return hatred. The path is here when greed appears and we practice giving. The path is here when desire pulls us toward harm, and we remember the suffering that follows. The path is here when we sit with the breath and see that even one inhalation arises and passes away. The path is here when we care for the sick, honor the old, remember the dead, forgive the living, and purify our own heart. Freedom from intoxication does not make life dry, it makes life clear. We can still smile at beauty, enjoy health, appreciate companionship, work, create, speak, rest, and love. But we do these things without forgetting their nature. We enjoy what is wholesome without clinging. We receive what is pleasant without becoming enslaved. We meet what is painful without believing. It is the end of the path. This is a different kind of happiness, quieter and stronger. It does not depend entirely on conditions being perfect. It is born from seeing clearly. At the end of this contemplation, we return to something very simple. Life is uncertain, but karma is certain. The moment of death is uncertain, but the effect of our actions is not meaningless. The body cannot be kept forever, but the heart can be trained. Loved ones cannot be possessed, but they can be met with kindness. Youth fades, health changes, life ends, separation comes, and karma follows. Therefore, every moment is a field. In this field, we can plant heedlessness, or we can plant wisdom. We can plant harm, or we can plant compassion. We can plant regret, or we can plant liberation. And so, at the end of this contemplation, we return to the simple breath we have now, the only place where the path can be walked. Not yesterday's breath, already gone. Not tomorrow's breath, not yet given. This breath, this moment, this mind. Here we can begin again. Here we can abandon one unwholesome intention. Here we can soften one hard thought. Here we can choose one truthful word, one generous act, one moment of mindfulness. If you find this useful, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave a comment. May we not wait until the body is broken to understand its fragility. May we not wait until loss arrives to learn tenderness. May we not wait until death is near to discover what truly matters. Let us live carefully, create wholesome karma, and meet impermanence with wisdom rather than regret. Because when the last breath comes, the wealth we gathered, the praise we received, and the pleasures we chased will not walk with us, but the quality of the heart, shaped by intention and action, will not abandon us. So while there is still time, let us practice. While there is still breath, let us awaken. While there is still a path beneath our feet, let us walk it with courage, humility, compassion, and peace.